Hello, good afternoon to all the participants.
Good afternoon, madam.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and mute yourself whenever needed. You can unmute. Sweta, be ready.
Yes, ma'am. Madam, you are not visible. Sorry, you are not audible.
Yes. Yes. Now?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah. So I request all the participants to join just before 3:30, means 3:20 p.m. To avoid some technical issues. Thank you very much for your commitment. So all the guests will join soon, within 5 minutes. Thank you very much. And I request all the participants to mute yourself. There is option whenever some questions will be there, you can unmute yourself and proceed for the questions. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, madam. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Madam, good afternoon, madam.
Sir, please welcome, sir. Wait for 10 more minutes. Yeah, thank you.
10-15 minutes, sir. Shall I come back again after 15 minutes?
No. 5 minutes, 5:10.
5
Sharp
minutes.
by 3:30. Please be there by 3:30.
3:30. Okay, right. రిషి ఇగో దగ్గర పెట్టుకో మేడం పిలుస్తుంది.
Mute yourself, sir. Sir, mute yourself. Sir, mute.
ఓకే కొంచెం వెళ్ళిపోదాం.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Sir.
Wait cheyalla ఏమన్నా?
Up to 5 minutes, sir. 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Actually, program will by 3:30, sir. So, just to avoid some technical issues.
Okay, right. No problem. Right.
Sir,
Right.
thank you so much.
మేడం ఒక 10 minutes కదా మే జాయిన్ ఆఫ్టర్ 10 minutes నో ప్రాబ్లం కదా మేడం
Yes, sir. Yes,
ఓకే
sir.
10 minutes madam. I will rejoin after 10 minutes.
Okay.
Hello. Good afternoon, madam.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
Please welcome, sir.
Yep.
Sir, we will start by
Good
5
afternoon
minutes.
to you all.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir. Babu, sir, video. Sir, good afternoon, sir. Sir, am I audible, sir? Sir, good afternoon, sir. May I know, sir, am I audible?
Yeah.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. Welcome, sir. Please welcome.
Yeah.
Sir, Professor Yadagiri, sir, is there, sir, and Professor Shivraj, sir, is there, and Professor Meredi, sir, is also there. Sir,
Okay,
please
all right.
start your videos. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Are you able to see me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible now. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Now I want to start the program, sir. I
Yeah.
think all the participants are around nearby 83, 85.
Yeah. No problem. We're on dot now.
Sir. Noon. Welcome to all the guests, all the dignitaries, honorable guests and guests of honor, valuable speakers, respected faculty, research scholars, and students across the country. I like to welcome on behalf of Department of Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Sciences, Mahatma Gandhi University, Nalgonda, for this today international webinar on Frontiers in Science and Technology is jointly organizing by Department of Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Sciences, Mahatma Gandhi University, Nalgonda, in association with Indian Chemical Society and American Chemical Society, India International Chemical Sciences Chapter.
Seminar starting.
Sir,
Meeting లో నువ్వు లాగిన ఉన్నావు.
Sir, I request all the participants to mute yours. Once again, I like to convey Happy Teachers' Day to all on the eve of birthday of Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishna Garu. I like to welcome this session with a welcome song. I request Miss Sweta. Over to Sweta.
Yes, ma'am.
ఇది నీకు పంపించదే ఆ లేకపోతే నువ్వు అవ్వాలి నీది లాగిన్ తో చేస్తాను.
I request all the participants to mute yourself. Please, Sweta, over to Sweta. Sweta, it's not audible. Sweta?
Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. your turn.
Thank you, Sweta. On the eve of Teachers' Day, I like to play one video for a short time. I request technical team to play the video for 1 or 2 minutes.
As President of India, and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect and defend the Constitution and the law.
Yes. Okay.
My whole attempt in my pretty long life, in my writings, speeches and works, was to promote the unity of the world on the basis of mind and spirit.
Sapna ko shape, please.
Now, I request all the guests. It's not visible. Share the screen. I request technical team to share what is on behalf of Department of Chemistry. Department of Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Sciences. I welcome today's Chief Patron, Sri Arvind Kumar Garu, IAS in charge Vice Chancellor of Mahatma Gandhi University, Nalgonda. Thank you, sir. Now I request to accept our online bouquet on behalf of department. Today's patron, Professor M. Yadagiri, sir, Registrar, Mahatma Gandhi University, Nalgonda. Thank you, sir. Please welcome to our session.
Thank you.
Now it's my honor to welcome today's chief guest of the function, Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav Garu, President Indian Chemical Society and Chair ACS, India International Chemical Sciences Chapter. Sir, please accept our online bouquet on behalf of department. Please welcome, sir. Now it's my honor today's special guest, Professor Shivraj, sir, Dean Faculty of Science, Usmania University, Hyderabad, Dean Development and UGC Affairs, Usmania University, and member of UGC New Delhi as a special guest. Please accept our online bouquet on behalf of department. And please welcome, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir. Thank you, sir. Now, we welcome guest of honor and valuable speaker of today's session, Professor Venkatram R. Reddy Garu, Department of Pharmacy, University of Minnesota, USA. Sir, please accept our online bouquet on behalf of department. Thank you, sir. Now, I request today's guest of honor and speaker, Professor General Gadda Subhash, sir, Rowan University, USA. Please accept our online bouquet, sir, and welcome to the session. Thank you, sir. And I request our principal, sir, Dr. G. Upendra Reddy Garu, Department of Mathematics, University College of Science. Please accept our bouquet, sir, and welcome to the session. Now, as a head of the department, I welcome all my colleagues of the department for their valuable contribution for every event towards the strengthening of our department, and I welcome all with online bouquet. Thank you, And I heartily welcome all respected faculty, administrators, research scholars, and students across the country. I, on behalf of department as a convener, please welcome to today's international webinar and bless the occasion with your valuable participation. Thank you. Now, I request our principal sir, Dr. Upendra Reddy sir, to give a brief about this event. Please, sir.
Okay,
Upendra
thank you,
Reddy,
madam.
sir.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's international webinar on frontiers in science and technology. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sri Arvind Kumar, IAS Garu, respected our dynamic registrar, Professor M. Yadagiri Sir Garu, Padma Shri, Professor G.D. Yadav, President, Indian Chemical Sciences, Professor Shivaraj Sir, Dean Faculty of Usmania University, Hyderabad, and the eminent speakers, Professor Venkatar Mareddy, Professor Jonnalgaddala Subhash, Professor K.V. Ramanjachari, Professor Yan Shuhan, Dr. M.V. Reddy, Professor Han, Dr. M. Vasanta Madam, Chairman BOS, and Senior Professor R.S. Annapurna Bhutti, all my department colleagues, and HOD, Dr.Y.Prashanthi Madam, and my dear students and fellow participants, I welcome to this international webinar. This is the first international webinar organizing from Department of Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Sciences, University College of Science.
Hello. Thank you, sir. Hello, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I believe teaching and learning is ever-ending and it's a continuous journey. During this pandemic, the journey is continuing by using technology. A range of technologies are coming of age all around us, transforming our world in complex ways that are hard to predict. Linking the word science and technology conveys a linear progression from scientific research to technology creation to innovate products. In this regard, this webinar was organized to equip and enrich the young faculty and all research scholars and students across the country with the eminent speakers. Thank you. In this regard, I would like to give a brief about our university. I request technical team to show few pictures of Mahatma Gandhi University and our department. Our department, university, is located in Nalgonda, Telangana state. Our main vision is cause and promotion of academic excellence. Overall, 1,500 students are pursuing, and the university has University College of Science and Informatics, University College of Commerce and Business Management, Arts and Social Sciences, and University College of Engineering and Technology. And I would like to give brief about our department also. These are the laboratories, and many of our times, our students will visit to few organizations and pharma industries, and many programs will be conducted every month to enrich the students, to promote the research excellence. And these are the activities where we conducted, and this is a special occasion where we honored a guest. He, Sir Dr. Lakshma Reddy Garu, Degree College lecturer, he sponsored gold medal, and Dr. Kamal Nabagaru, Reddy Garu, he sponsored a gold medal for MSc, and this is a very special event of our department. And outcomes of department, research scholars of our department includes CSR JRF, UGC JRF, NET, SLATE, GATE qualified, and alumni of our department occupied the highest positions in reputed organizations, research and academic institutions, and many more pharma companies. Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to thank all my colleagues of the department and university administration for encouraging constantly to reach this milestone. Thank you very much. Now, I request Dr. Vasanta ma'am to give brief introduction about today's patron of our program, Professor M. Yadagiri Sir, Registrar, Mahatma Gandhi University, Nalgonda.
నా పేరు ఎందుకంటారు?
Vasanta ma'am. I request Vasanta ma'am.
Hello.
Yeah, ma'am. Audible. Please over to Vasanta ma'am. Yeah, ma'am.
Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. Audible and visible. Please.
Good afternoon, one and all. Thank
Good
you
afternoon,
very much
ma'am.
for giving me opportunity to introduce our young and dynamic Professor Yadagiri Garu, Registrar, Mahatma Gandhi University. Professor Madarapu Yadagiri Garu has done his MCom, MPhil, PhD from Kakatiya University and completed MBA Finance, PGDIM, PGDFM from IGNOU, New Delhi. He has also completed BEd from Annamala University and cleared state level eligibility test in 1998. He is having vast teaching experience of 28 years and he has the management of Lal Bahadur College has honored him for his good contribution for writing books and publishing articles in academic journals. He is a member in NACPEER team to assess and accredit higher educational institutions. 6 candidates has been awarded PhD under his guidance and 6 candidates are pursuing. He has organized 8 seminars and he served as a resource person for national level seminars, refresher courses and orientation programs. And he attended 31 conferences and seminars. He edited 8 books and published 47 books. He published 72 articles in national and international journals. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Giving a nice introduction about our registrar sir. Now I request the registrar sir to give a brief about this event. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Good afternoon, all of you.
Good afternoon, sir.
At the outset, I congratulate the convener, Dr.Y.Prashanthi garu, to organize this international webinar on frontiers in science and technology. I feel it is a privilege to participate in this international webinar where the great personalities and eminent scientists are involving. Today's chief guest of this international webinar, Padmasri Professor G.D. Yadav garu, and special guest, and all other guests of honor and speakers, the Principal, University College of Science, Dr. Upendra Reddy garu, and the Chairperson, Board of Studies in the Department of Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Sciences, and the research scholars, and all other participants. So once again, I congratulate for joining in this international webinar to sharing your valuable ideas. Being a commerce teacher, I am a layman in the science and technology. However, it is a customary to speak something about this international webinar. Here there are the great personalities and eminent scientists are there. They will elaborate the significance of the science and technology in the today's world. My dear friends, all of you know that the world moving around is science and technology only. Science encompasses the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. Whereas technology is the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes. This is my observation. I can say the science and technology are interrelated, interdependent, and inter-influenced. There are no boundaries for the expansion of science and technology. According to the need and necessity of the people for their survival, so we have to go on to invest the things through science and technology. Best example is the COVID-19 situation. We never expected this type of situation will come across in our routine life. But when we faced this situation, immediately our scientists, so trying at their level best to invent something to prevent that pandemic situation. The scientists are working hard to find out the suitable medicine, to invent the tablets or injections or vaccine, whatever may be. So according to the need and necessity of the people, so it is the responsibility of all the scientists and technologists, so to invent the new things for safeguard the people. So I hope that the eminent people are there. So it is a good opportunity to learn more about the importance of science and technology. I hope that it will be a fruitful seminar. So I request the convener, please note down all the suggestions and recommendations made by the speakers, because so the speakers who are involving from abroad also there, so that their valuable suggestions will helpful to strengthen the science and technology even in our education institution also. So I wish you all the best. So once again, I congratulate the convener particularly and all the faculty members in general. So thank you for giving this opportunity to interact with the great eminent personalities. Thank you one and all.
Thank you so much, sir, for your very valuable words. Even though non-science background, but you explained very well about the science and technology. Thank you so much, sir. Now I request Annapurna ma'am to introduce today's special guest of the program, Professor Shivraj sir, Dean Faculty of Science, Usmania University. Yes, ma'am. Please over to Annapurna ma'am.
Good afternoon, one and all. I'll take this opportunity to wish all the teachers on the conference as Happy Teachers Day to all. And it is my pleasure to introduce Professor Shivraj sir. Sir is alumni of Usmania University. Sir received both MSc and PhD from Usmania University. Sir was also appointed as assistant professor to the same university, this is Usmania University. And sir has total 33 years of teaching experience and 35 years of research experience in bioinorganic chemistry. So 18 students have been awarded PhD under sir's guidance, and sir has published 100 plus research articles in national and international journals. Sir delivered 55 vital lectures at national and international conferences. Sir visited 12 countries for research academic activities. Sir is executive member of ICC. Sir is a life member of ISCA and IACT, ICC, ICS, ICCE, and ACS. Sir served Usmania University in several positions like Youth Welfare Officer for Department of Student Affairs. Sir was Controller of Examinations. Sir was Director for Admissions. Sir was Principal for University College of Science. Sir was Chairman Board of Studies of Chemistry. And Sir also served the sister concerned university, that is Palamur University, as Dean Faculty of Science and Registrar of the university. Sir was honored with Best Teachers Award by Telangana State Government. Sir is an executive member for Telangana State Council of Higher Education. Sir is a member of NMC for Education of SCs, STs and Persons with Disabilities, MHRD, Government of India. Sir is a member of UGC New Delhi and a member of Board and Governance of NIPER. But Sir presently is serving Usmania University as Dean for Development and UGC Affairs and Dean Faculty of Science for Usmania University. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak about the energetic and strong Professor Shivraj Sir. Of course, he's guide for our beloved colleague, Dr.Y.Prashanthi. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Your nice words about today's special guest. Sir, I welcome. And I request.
Thank you very much, Madam Annapurna, Madam, for your nice introduction about me. So,
thank you, sir. It's always a great thing to speak about you, sir. Very strong person.
Thank you very much, Madam. Good afternoon, everybody. Respected Registrar, Professor Yadagiri, sir. Padma Shri, Professor J.D. Yadav Garu, President, Indian Council of Chemists. Chair, American Chemical Society. Distinguished speakers, Mary Digga sir, General Gadda Subhash Garu, then convener of this conference, webinar, Dr. Prashanthi Madam, Dr. Vasanta Madam, Chairperson Board of Studies, Annapurna Madam, other staff members of the Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Sciences, organizing committee members, invitees, guests, participants from different parts of the country, and friends. First of all, let me wish a happy Teachers' Day to all of you. I have great pleasure to be amongst you this afternoon on the occasion of two-day international webinar on frontiers in science and technology organized by Department of Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Sciences, Mahatma Gandhi University, Nalgonda. I congratulate and compliment the organizers, particularly Dr.Y.Prashanthi Garu, Head Department of Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Sciences, Mahatma Gandhi University, for their initiative, keen interest, meticulous planning, and putting lots of efforts in organizing this great academic event, aiming at promoting innovative research and advancement of knowledge in interdisciplinary areas of science and technology. Dr. Prashanthi Madam and other staff members of Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Sciences always focus to organize some or other academic activities in the department throughout the academic year. That's what I observed. The theme of the today's webinar is very relevant to the present day scenario, focusing on recent developments in science and technology for the benefit of the society. Over a period of time, the science discoveries have provided immense benefit to the society and advancements in technology reach to a common man. Today, for example, the richest man using mobile phone and the poorest person in the remote area is also using mobile phone. This is the greatest of the advancement in science and technology. The science and technology significantly contributes towards sustainable livelihoods and economic development of the nation. Today, the science and technology invaded every branch of modern life of human beings, making the lives easier, safer, and more comfortable. Our Indian policy framework is providing science and technology benefits to the common man through a variety of the schemes like Make in India, Made in India, Digital India, Swachh Bharat and Swasth Bharat, etc. India has been leading the world with innovations in waste management by recycling processes. Today, all of us are seriously facing problems with COVID-19 pandemic, and the scientists are fighting to find the solutions in the form of medications and vaccine. Of course, it is an extremely challenging task to the scientists. The development of nanotechnology has gained increasingly importance in the development of interdisciplinary fields. In nanotechnology, the so-called nanomedicine is considered to be one of the most promising drug delivery platform ever developed and being used to deliver both new and approved drugs. A pandemic situation is the worst case scenario in the field of infectious diseases. Innovative technologies and the potential have the potential to address the challenges associated with manufacture of personalized drug delivery systems, biosensors, medical devices. During pandemic, 3D printing, microfluids, microelectrochemical systems capable to provide rapid detection and monitoring of disease and delivery medicines. Today, we need to strengthen the scientific knowledge for the development of relevant technologies through affordable innovations which support the cost reduction, increase operating and energy efficiency, lowering air, water, and soil pollution, producing wind energy, solar energy, efficient water fixtures, green space sustainable forestry, water harvesting, wastewater management, and natural resource, save natural resources. I hope this webinar will certainly help all the participants to understand the details of different, different kinds of technologies and advancement in science to enhance their research skills. I request all the participants to utilize this best opportunity for improving their knowledge in the field of chemistry and pharmaceutical sciences to design, synthesize the new therapeutic drugs and drug intermediates and characterize them by different analytical techniques, their applications for the treatment of infectious diseases and cancers, etc. Your research output should ultimately benefit to the common people at large. I request all the young faculty and research scholars to do the quality research, identifying the local societal problems and finding the solutions to them. I request all the youngsters, young staff members and research scholars, publish your work in reputed national and international journals with good impact factor. Your work must be cited by many, and your work must be a challenging one, and that ultimately leads to giving solution to the local societal problems. And whatever work you do, try to file for patent. In India, we are very poor to filing the patent rights. So therefore, whatever you do, innovative work, you try to file for patent. Then only your work will be recognized, and that helps you for building your career. In this webinar, the current topics such as medicinal chemistry, anti-cancer agents, lithium-ion batteries, a removal of hazardous pollutants will be delivered by eminent scientists from India and abroad. I am sure All the sessions will be excellent, very interesting, very informative, and definitely eliminate all the delegates who are participating in the seminar and immensely benefit to all the participants. I wish this seminar a grand success. I wish this seminar gives, definitely illuminates the minds of the young research scholars and stimulates the young research scholars to drive them to do a very challenging research work. With these words, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to say few words on this occasion. Thank you very much. I wish all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable and motivated words for all the researchers and young faculty towards the research and academics. Thank you very much, sir, for giving
you,
this time to bless our event with valuable presence. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Sir. Now, I request today's chief guest of the function, Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav Garu. Please welcome, sir. And it's my honor to introduce Sir Professor Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav Garu is one of the topmost and highly prolific engineering scientists in India. Sir is internationally recognized by many prestigious and rare awards as an academician, researcher, and innovator, including his contributions to education, research, and innovation in green chemistry, engineering, catalysis, chemical engineering, energy engineering, biotechnology, nanotechnology, and development of clean and green technologies. More than 10 years, Sir served as the founding Vice Chancellor and R.T. Modi Distinguished Professor and Tata Chemicals Distinguished Professor of Leadership and Innovations at the Institute of Chemical Technology, ICT, Mumbai. Sir currently holds the titles of Emeritus Professor of Eminence and J.C. Bose National Fellow in ICT. Sir serves as the Adjunct Professor at University, Canada, RMIT University, Melbourne, Australia, and University of Newcastle, Australia. Sir was conferred Padma Shri, the fourth highest civilian honor by the President of India in 2016 for his outstanding contributions to science and engineering. He has been recipient of 2 honorary doctorates. As a Vice Chancellor, Sir has recorded many credentials. Under his dynamic leadership, Sir made a phenomenal progress, having been declared as a Category 1 institute, having started 23 new academic programs. The ICT is listed in top 100 institutions in the developing world by Times Higher Education ranking in 2019. The actual innovation ranking of MHRD has placed ICT as the #1 among government-funded universities. Sir has a member in Indian National Science Academy, Indian Academy of Sciences, National Academy of Sciences, India, Indian National Academy of Engineering, as well as the World Academy of Sciences, and Sir is a fellow of Royal Society of Chemistry, UK, Institute of Chemical Engineers, UK, Indian Institute of Chemical Engineers, Indian Chemical Society, and Indian Society for Technical Education. Sir research product is phenomenal with supervision of 100 doctoral and 115 master's theses. Besides, Sir has supervised 37 postdoctoral fellows, several summer fellows, and research staff. Sir has published 446 original research papers, 150 national and patents, 3 books, H-index of 57, I-10 of 265, and 12,000 plus citations in journals, patent books, and monographs. Sir is still actively involved in guiding doctoral students, patenting, publishing, consulting, and transferring the technologies to industry. Sir is a member of Apex Council of India Oil R&D. And American Chemical Society published a special issue of Industrial and Engineering Chemistry Research in his honor with 65 original research papers from scientists from all over the world. He is the founder president of American Chemical Society India International Chapter. He is the editorial board of many prestigious journals of ACS, Green Chemistry, Applied Catalysis, and many more. Sir, thank you so much. And I'd like to thank on behalf of Department and Mahatma Gandhi University in conducting this today national webinar in collaboration with the Indian Chemical Society and American Chemical Society, India International Chemical Sciences Chapter. Thank you very much, sir. And I welcome and I request to give in-depth introduction about these societies.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Prashanthi. Can I make my presentation along with, can you just stop this, what you have on the screen?
Yes, sir, you can share it, sir. You can share it.
Okay. Yeah, I will share mine. Okay. Okay, so are you able to see this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so at the very outset, I must wish all of you a very happy Teachers' Day. And this is in honor of great Telugu academician, Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, in whose honor this day has been celebrated. And what he said is life of joy and happiness is possible only on the basis of knowledge and science. So it is very nice to know that although he was a philosopher, he respected knowledge and science. So at the same time, I want to address those who are attending this particular webinar, Dr. Yadagiri, and who else is there? And Dr. Shivraj, who spoke a little while ago, and others, and of course, Dr. Prashanthi, who was very kind to invite me for this particular function. So with this, I will also want to, congratulate your Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences for, allowing us to open the student chapters of these two great institutions. One is the Indian Chemical Society, which was established in 1924 by the great Acharya P.C. Ray, who is well known for his work on hydroxychloroquine, which we are talking about because of COVID. But he was a professor as well as industrialist, and of course the American Chemical Society. So I hope these two bodies which we are collaborating in India, and luckily I'm the president of Indian Chemical Society and also founding chair of ACS India chapter. So, as far as this chapter opening is concerned, I would like to also give some brief idea so that you will come to know what we're doing. I took over as the president this year, and we started many new activities. Because of this COVID situation across the globe, we had to do many things through video conferencing, and we have been doing it. So I will illustrate some of these things. One of the most important things is that the Journal of Indian Chemical Society, which has been published since 1924, and there are many articles from across the world. So this journal will be published now by the Elsevier in the Netherlands, and that will use the editorial manager platform. We have appointed an international advisory board. And in this, there are many interesting features. We will have many things in which I'm going to talk a little bit about. There are new guidelines for fellowships. Indian Chemical Society had only category of fellowship. There was no other category. So this year, what we did, we introduced a new category of membership, because there are many people who are working in colleges, institutions who cannot be fellows, but they are serving the profession. So I thought that in the interest of the profession, and particularly to spread the message of chemical sciences in colleges, universities, we must have this new category of membership. So we have introduced that this year. Then there are student members. Students are our, very important backbone of all activities. So we started this student membership. Then there is institutional membership for colleges and universities and centrally funded institutions. And that will help these colleges because that is going to help them in their NRF ranking, because the kind of activities which we are going to do across the throughout the year that I'm going to illustrate to you. And then there will be this chemical Varta, which bulletin, we publish it every month. And on 2nd August, 159th birthday anniversary of Acharya P.C. Ray was celebrated. An entire month of August, on every Saturday, we used to have these webinars where participants from across the world participated. We are going to have a new website, and of course, we have collaboration with American Chemical Society and Royal Society of Chemistry. So as far as the institutional membership is concerned, where I want to spread this message, that the institutional membership is 1 lakh rupee for 10 years, that is 10,000 rupees per annum. And a permanent membership will be only rupees 5 lakh. And in that, and the journal which is being published, is the journal fee is rupees 6,000 per annum, which we have 12 issues and at least 150 to 200 pages per issue. At the same time, it is our intention to promote the activities in all colleges and institutes. And one of the ideas is to hold international and national seminars or webinars on each Saturday from 2 to 6 with one of the member colleges. So like, for instance, your college is joined today. It's very good that we are participating and we can invite many people from abroad. In fact, others can also join these webinars. It is open to everybody. And we will recognize all these colleges in our annual convention, which is during December 26 and 29 this year. And so those who are members can be anybody who has graduated with BSc, BTech, BE or equivalent degree, or master's degree or PhD. Now MPhil is no longer, but MPhil are this year, and postdoc fellows. And so what are the specializations? Because many times people don't know who can become members of the Indian Chemical Society. Like, we know that analytical chemistry, inorganic, organic, physical, green chemistry, industrial chemistry, polymer chemistry, biochemistry, food chemistry and technology, microbiology, pharmaceutical sciences and technology, earth sciences, marine chemistry, agrochemistry, soil chemistry, interfacial science, textile chemistry, solid state chemistry, theoretical chemistry, chemical engineering, chemical technology, physics, biological sciences, biotechnology, marine chemistry, material chemistry and engineering, natural products chemistry, environmental chemistry, nuclear chemistry, oceanography, chemical physics, biomedical engineering, oil chemistry, dyestuff chemistry, and any other where people have been working at the interface of chemistry and that particular discipline. And so, with that, I want to invite your attention that because we have these 5 different categories, so your students can join. The student fee is only 500 rupees. For, suppose it is an undergraduate program, it is for 3 years, MS it is for 2 years, and PhD, whatever, 4 years or whatever, that is just 500 rupees. And they can also subscribe to the general journal by paying additional fee, which is $10 per year. So this is what I wanted to tell you. Since I'm a scientist, I also thought that I will give a formal lecture to you, so that since this theme is, frontiers in science and technology, I will like to tell you something about catalytic selectivity engineering in valorization of biomass, carbon dioxide, and water into chemicals, materials, and energy. So in this particular regard, let me tell you what are the challenges today's world. So new trinity, we have Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. So what is this? So we have many challenges today, and the COVID epidemic, the coronavirus epidemic has given us many things to do. So look at this butterfly. The butterfly changes its colors depending on circumstances, and that is for survival. So we have to also change our activities accordingly. Or if you are constrained in one place, you must leave that place and go to another where you can expand yourself. That is another thing. Or you must take risk, because unless you take risk in life, you are not going to be successful. In other words, Never before have so many compelling technological problems have occupied the prominence in our system of values. Every moment something happens unexpectedly, posing a new challenge, and coronavirus changed everything. The way we think, live, meet, and behave or rejoice. Constantly on our minds is the fear of the unknown and the uncertain future in every activity. A tiny creature, if you may, has held the whole world to the ransom of with devastating effect. So if you open up any newspaper, these are the buzzwords: energy, water, food, affordable healthcare, and environment. And on to the top of it, you can add carbon footprint, industry and infrastructure, sustainable development, and GDP. And all of these things have been affected by COVID-19. So since we are opening up this chapter of a chemical society, so I'm going to ask you this question. How did you begin your day today? I'm sure what you see on the screen, any of these things you have used in the morning. Well, if not, at least you have chosen your mobile phone to do something. These days, people don't know the deity, but they look at the mobile phones to see what message is there or anything is on the WhatsApp. That is what people do. So then let me ask you another question. What is the motto of the Olympic movement? And why so many records have been broken year after year in the Olympics? Think of the equipment and the attire of the players, the synthetic materials, the turfs and all that. Whatever you see on the screen, none of these things would have been possible but material chemistry. And what are these materials? And what are those being used? So the motto of Olympic movement is CTS, RTS, FATIS, meaning faster, higher, and stronger. That means somebody beats the record of the previous year in the sprinting, or somebody jumps higher, or somebody weighs, takes a big higher load. So if you look at the Olympic movement, how are these made? Whether it is a attire, a dress, or the shoe, or whatever. What sort of synthetic materials are used? The polymers which are used, the synthetic textiles, the drugs and pharmaceuticals which the athletes take, the colors and pigments, perfumes, flavors, rubbers, elastomers, inorganic materials, all sorts of gadgets which they use, the computers, air purifiers, sanitizers, including the internet, the sensors they use, and the food and packaging, pure water and the beverages, rackets, ball, googles, lubricants, name it. How are they made? Ask this basic question. You take them for granted. So for that, I'm going to ask this question. Can you show any 3 man-made materials or products in the previous slide or the Olympic movement which do not use any chemicals? And if you can show something, or for that matter, you look around you where you are sitting right now in your home or in the office or the place where you stay, you will not be able to find anything which is not made without using chemicals. And if you show 3 products, you will get 100 million pounds prize for that. So this prize has been waiting since 2008. And that was to promote chemical sciences. Not even one has come forward and said that. So whether it is your mobile phone where it uses all sorts of polymeric materials, smart materials, the chips, gallium arsenide or silicon where uses parts per billion impurity is not even tolerated. You can imagine nothing is possible. So chemical sciences will be always there in the critical sciences. And one of the things which people are mentioning about is the sustainable development goals. These are 17 goals. And 2 important things which we should look at, and we can group them into 3 parts: no poverty and zero hunger. By 2030, we should not have any person who die of hunger. And at the same time, there will not be any poverty. And you see that at the same time, we want good health, we want clean water, we want clean energy, we have to have good industry, infrastructure, and innovation, and name everything. None of these things are possible without the contribution of chemical sciences. So in this regard, I would also like to tell you something which is being talked about is so-called green chemistry, which is the invention, design, application of chemical products and processes to reduce or to eliminate the use of and generation of hazardous substances. And perhaps you might have seen during the lockdown, many accidents took place. One of those is the Vizag case, where the styrene vaporized and killed many people. So in green chemistry or green engineering for that matter, we would like to eliminate all risk and hazard involved in manufacturing of these chemical products and processes. How was green chemistry introduced? It is not a new concept as the Americans would like to make you believe. I in fact wrote an article on this. It started with the Leblanc process of soda ash in 1791. And this particular process used to generate, HCl, and that HCl fumes would go, and sometimes it may generate also H2S. So this was the Leblanc process. So in England, Her Majesty, the Queen's, Inspector of Alkalis, George Davis. George Davis was asked to stop this pollution. And to do that, this Solvay process was adopted, which is, Solvay's process where you take sodium chloride and calcium carbonate. But nobody knows that ammonia is involved in this particular process. Without ammonia, this does not work, but ammonia is recycled. So this is the process which gave birth to chemical engineering and green chemistry simultaneously. And you look at these principles, and you'll understand that, so green chemistry is not a new concept. It has been there, but it was not said so. So what are these 12 principles? Prevention, atom economy, less hazardous chemical synthesis, designing safer chemicals, safer solvents, designing for energy efficiency. For instance, now you do not take sulfuric acid plant as producing sulfuric acid. It is an energy producing plant. Incidentally, sulfuric acid is produced. So that for that matter, even ammonia synthesis. Use of renewable feedstock, reducing derivatives. Chemists like to derivatize everything and ultimately make something by number of stages. So here the concept is different. That is, you should not have any derivative. Catalysis, designed for integration because of the environmental protection. Real-time analysis for pollution prevention and inherent safer chemistry. For example, the Bhopal accident. Can we have something which can stop this kind of thing? So literally, why these 12 principles? Because they were all related to 12, agrochemicals, and all of these agrochemicals contain chlorine in that, and they were, persistent chemicals. So against those 12 dirty dozen, there was a movie called Dirty Dozen also. These 12 principles were introduced. There is nothing sacrosanct in this. What is sacrosanct is atom economy, catalysis, and in today's context, because by 2054 we will not have any oil, so use of renewable feedstock. That will be our source as against crude oil or coal for that matter. So Solvay process of 1865 was the genesis of green chemistry and chemical engineering. And since we are living in the material world, how do you create this material world? Through smart chemistry. So we can have the regular materials, we have the functional materials, and we will have smart materials. The materials which can wink at us, they can smile at us, they can even be shying away from us. And the engineering materials. All of these new materials have been possible because of a fantastic chemistry in that and multiple of functionalities. So the beauty and charm of chemistry is that the attributes that perhaps most distinguishes chemistry from the rest of sciences is the ability of chemists to control the structure of matter at the molecular level, from complex natural products like vancomycin to nanoparticles and whole genomes. So chemistry is increasingly shifting from structure to function, and chemists will need to develop better strategies to efficiently generate molecules and system of molecules with desired physical, chemical, or biological properties in order to meet the biomedical, energy, and environmental needs of the future. So this slide is a favorite of mine. And this slide I showed to show the contributions of chemical and allied industry to modern society, be that fuels, energy, materials, or basic needs, luxury, comfort, or quality of life. What we have simple things. We may have petroleum, coal, or natural gas, and air and sulfur, and this is what it does. And you may add phosphorus to that as well. But you can see that, so we have commodity chemicals, we have secondary chemicals, secondary commodity, intermediates. So that is primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary industries. And ultimately we get these finished products. So what we see is textiles, we see safe food supply, transportation, housing, recreation, communication, health and hygiene. The general public only sees the end product. So the beauty of chemical industry is that 70% of the chemicals are used within the industry. They don't see the shelf in a normal shop. Nobody goes there to buy it. We see the end products. So that is the beauty of that. And so because of this Atmanirbhar Bharat of the Honorable Prime Minister's new slogan, India can make all these chemicals over here. Right now, we are importing 80% of this API from China. And many of the intermediates are also, because they're very cheap over there. And so India can make them and should not depend on China. And this is where catalysis plays a very important role. And why it plays an important role? Because that is the area in which I've been working, whether it is petroleum refinery, bulk organic chemicals, intermediates, and fine chemicals and pharmaceuticals. You look at the production. The petroleum refinery will be 1 million tons to 100 million tons, and go down every layer. It is 2 orders of magnitude is go down. So for instance, in pharmaceutical, it may be 10 tons to 1,000 tons. But the byproduct formation also goes up from top to bottom. So the byproduct production in refinery industry may be only 100 grams per gram of product. Everything is used, and their catalysis plays a very important role. And these are continuous processes, therefore safest. Large number of accidents take place in intermediate, fine chemicals, and pharmaceutical and other industries. Why? Because these are batch processes. They are not properly controlled. They produce a lot of the waste, and therefore it is very, very important that we use catalytic continuous processes. And in these days, we talk about even microreactor systems. So I switch gear and go to something which we talk about is energy. What is the energy requirement of the world, and what is the energy requirement of India, and what we should do? And this is where also we must look at the so-called Paris Accord or Paris Agreement, where all nations except United States, for that matter, everybody else signed this accord saying that we should reduce temperature, global temperature, to less than 1.5 degrees C during this century. Now it's a very tall order, and I'm going to tell you something about this. And if you look at the energy requirement of the world, we take this year as 2040 as the year for our comparison. We will have oil, gas, coal, nuclear energy, hydroelectric, and renewable energy. The renewable may increase. And you see at the same time, the carbon dioxide emissions, gigatons of CO2, they are increasing also day by day. That means that global warming is going to take place because of this carbon dioxide emissions. So what do we do? And you see all these things are being recorded. So for example, the energy requirement, many times we only think of the transport, whether it is a car or the truck or many things which is running on diesel or aviation fuel, for example. However, people do not know industry and buildings constitute a large number, percentage of energy. So 3% goes on building. So you see, from 1970 to 2040, you see this countries wise, the end sector, you look at here, it is India, and it is China is below here, and the OECD, Organization of Economically Developed Countries. So you see other renewables, etc., the region, still we will be using coal by 2040. So this is another revelation. So the global economic growth is driven by increasing prosperity in developing economies led by China and India. And so even if you have a global, say GDP average 3.5, still it means a lot of energy requirement for the entire world. So you see, and that is to add to that the higher living standards, that increase the energy demand, and this is of course the energy intensity. So you see the energy demand is also increasing, the GDP is increasing per head. So and that we can attach to the so-called human development index, HDI. Typically you see majority of the nations lie below 0.8, and the highly rich countries, they go beyond this. So that means this is the area where we concentrate. We find that the energy requirement of this area will increase if the HDI increases for everybody else. And this is what the conclusion is. So if the global energy system faces obviously two challenges, that is, we require more energy but less carbon, and that is the theme I'm going to talk about. How do we reduce carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? So you see the primary energy, CO2, more energy means primary energy, more carbon dioxide will go here. However, if we use less carbon and renewables, it can go down. And this has to be by 2040. So how do we do that? So you see the non-combusted use of oil, gas, and coal grows robustly despite increasing regular plastics, because there is a ban on single-use plastic. So that is going to affect the economy to some extent, but to not large extent. So the liquid feedstock for single-use plastic, you can see that because of that ban by 2040, that energy demand will go down. However, the buildings will constitute a large amount of the. So you can see that buildings are going to contribute final energy. Buildings were fuel. You can see, so electricity, coal, gas, and oil, these are our areas, and you see electricity. And electricity, the rise in electricity consumption leads to the rise in quality of life. So we want low carbon industry, and also that carbon capture and utilization and storage system, the so-called circular economy. I will talk about it a little bit. So if you look at the renewable energy projected, 10 minutes. So this is solar, wind, hydro, nuclear, gas, and coal. You can see that. So the carbon-based fuels, whether the carbon is coming from fossil fuels or biofuels, there is a need to convert CO2 into fuels, chemicals, and materials. And hydrogen is the cleanest fuel, which can be produced from hydrocarbons or from water, and can be used to convert carbon dioxide into products, and treatment of waste biomass into hydrocarbons with the help of novel catalysts. So hydrocarbons can also be reformed into hydrogen, but still carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide need to be utilized. So this is the slide. I will not take more than 5-10 minutes. How many minutes you want me to take? About 10 minutes or 5 minutes? 5 minutes. Okay. So you see the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. See, today we have carbon dioxide in atmosphere is about 410 ppm. When the Industrial Revolution started, it was 260. And you see that there is no technological intervention. By the year 2200, this will go to something like, 2000. And that will be disastrous for the entire world. So in other words, if you look at that, the temperature rise by that, it means will be 8 degrees C. Majority of the coastal cities will be, underneath, under the sea. So this is where the Paris Treaty was brought into. And we know that currently 0.013 degree per decade rise is there, and we have to do that. So no matter what carbon source you use, whether it is renewable, where non-renewable, which is oil and gas and coal, or you use renewable carbon, ultimately you use all these technology to convert into some chemicals and materials. So no matter what you do, it is the end is carbon dioxide. That means carbon dioxide has to be valorized. Carbon dioxide has to be there. So this is carbon neutral economy. So you can take carbon dioxide and make into various products, and you take any biomass. This is the non-renewable and this is the renewable. You see, ultimately we produce this basic feedstock like ethylene, benzene, xylene, etc. And you take these precursors and make these intermediates, and finally you go to the final products. So what it ultimately means, carbon dioxide refine of the future will be converting carbon dioxide either through photosynthesis like the trees are doing, or through hydrogenation to hydrocarbons, refining and making chemicals. And we have been working in this number of years. So this is what carbon-based fuels are. So this is where we require better catalysts. and large number of these processes are being done. So Indian oil import was almost 228.6 trillion tons of crude oil, and government of India wants to reduce this. So you can see that the primary share will increase by 11% by 2040. And therefore, and this 42% of this energy will be through, coal. That means CO2 emissions will double by 2040. And therefore, we have to really worry about carbon dioxide conversion technologies. And not only that, the renewable energy sources, they will be rising from 20 million tons of oil equivalent to 300 million tons of oil equivalent by 2040. So once again, despite this growth in renewables, coal will continue to dominate India's power generation mix, accounting for 80% of the output by 2040. So no carbon-based fuels and hydrogen as source of energy. Hydrogen has many, many good properties. So we developed this process, which is supported by ONGC. And this technology, we are producing hydrogen from water. Okay, and this is a very interesting material. And here we also have, this is fundamentals, where we analyze pore structure, catalytic properties and all that. So I won't go into the details of this, but what I want to tell you that many of these things are possible in today's world. So I will go towards the end of my slide presentation, just to show you that what we can do in case of, these are some of the research you have published on many of these processes which you are talking about. And in the case of biomass, it is hydrogenation and oxidation, which are going to be very important. Or for that matter, you have this so-called biodiesel, where vegetable oils, we get biodiesel and bioglycerol and convert glycerol into a variety of products. And we did all these things. We have several patents in this area, particularly glycerol to many of these products. And you can have glycols, and we can have HMF. And you can see that variety of these things were done in my laboratory. I'm just showing you to bring to your attention that biomass can be converted into valuable chemicals and not just biofuels. Okay, and hydrogen production. Why hydrogen? I must tell you, because hydrogen can be produced by many means. And in the case of hydrogen, it is thermochemical, electrocatalytic, and photolytic. And here are biohydrogen, fermentation, and biophotolysis. And you see, in this steam reforming of natural gas is one of the largest used technologies here, and that is about 48%. Okay, so here what we did in our case, why hydrogen I want to tell you. So we have many things, biomass derived alcohols, ethanol, butanol, glycerol, and glycol. We have published this work, we have got patents also. And if you look at the reforming technology, steam reforming is the best technology which is available to industry. And in our case, we studied water splitting through copper chlorine cycle and also sulfur iodine cycle. And in that copper chlorine cycle, we can see that in the maturity of technology, steam reforming, partial oxidation, and we did this analysis and we found that our process is the cheapest across the world. So we can produce hydrogen at 95 cents per kg in comparison with $2, which is current source. So if you look at the comparison, so this is where we would like to take to the last few slides. So the catalytic technology, what I'm trying to tell you is that if we go on reducing the carbon in the atmosphere, the carbon dioxide, we can go by 2050 where the carbon dioxide emissions can be reduced. And this is what our ideal goal was that. And so this is where we also talk about linear versus circular economy. You make new chemicals, materials, products, you recycle them in some other form, and you ultimately look at the end of the life cycle instead of dumping it somewhere. So in our case, this is my ICT Mumbai process. We have solar power, we have source of storage, energy storage here, and then this copper chlorine cycle, we make hydrogen and oxygen, and we convert carbon dioxide with waste biomass and into variety of this hydrocarbons, methanol, dimethyl ether, formic acid, formats, syngas, Fischer-Tropsch synthesis, alcohols, fuel cells, hydrogen vehicles, and electricity. You can see that this is what is required. So what is the future of chemical feedstock? Nothing is best but wealth, carbon neutral or carbon free processes. Carbon dioxide should be valorized using novel catalytic technology and multi-phase reactors. System engineering approach, only useful products and energy leaves the system. Waste biomass, plastic, woody biomass can be used. Nature as a guide. Carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, catalysis by chemical and biological processes. So I must acknowledge ONGC Energy Center for supporting my research for the last 15 years, and these two endowment positions which I held for during my career, and of course JC Bose National Fellow of DST. So this is my research group currently working in my lab. And finally, in the Journal of Indian Chemical Society, I told you that we'll have both open access and subscription mode. This is the International Editorial Board, 12 issues per year, decisions within 1 month, and suggestions of 5 experts, 3 from abroad and 2 from India, who are fellows of Indian Chemical Society. At the same time, I'm also a editor-in-chief of another international journal, which is published by Bagel in the United States, Catalysis in Green Chemistry and Engineering. If anybody wants to submit papers, they are free to submit to this journal. Okay, and that is also international editorial board, coming from across the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to give a glimpse of my research apart from the activity as a president of Indian Chemical Society and the American Chemical Society India International Chapter. And I hope your institute, your college, university would join as a member of the Chemical Society. The students will be student members, and then we can have many more seminars and webinars of this kind in future, where many fellows from India and abroad will be willing to give lectures. With this, I once again thank you for listening to me very patiently. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for in-depth concepts about change, challenge, and opportunity, green chemistry principles, and importance of catalysis, and what the advanced research is going on in your laboratory. Thank you very much, sir. And my heartfelt thanks on behalf of department and Mahatma Gandhi University. You are going to open 2 student chapters of Indian Chemical Society and American Chemical Society, India International Chemical Sciences chapter. Thank you very much, sir. Because no words to express our thankfulness. You have given your valuable time to bless the event, and you are interacting with all of us. Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so follow up that, whatever
yes,
I said. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Now, I request, I invite today's guest of honor and valuable speaker, Professor Meriti Venkatram Reddy Garu, University of Minnesota, USA. And I request Abhilasha ma'am to introduce sir. Over to Abhilasha.
Good evening all the participants of international webinar on frontiers in science and technology. ID Abhilasha from Department of Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Sciences would like to thank Dr.Y.Prashanthi madam for giving this opportunity. And it's a great privilege to introduce Dr. Venkatram R. Reddy. Sir is a professor in the Department of Pharmacy, Practice and Pharmaceutical Sciences at University of Minnesota, United States of America, with a joint appointment in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry at University of Minnesota, Duluth. Sir obtained his Bachelor of Sciences from Usmania University and Master of Sciences from National Institute of Technology, Warangal. Later, Sir has completed PhD from IIT Kanpur in synthetic organic chemistry, working under the supervision of Professor Y.D. Wanker. Sir then worked as postdoc in organoboron chemistry with Nobel laureate late Professor Herbert C. Brown at Purdue University, United States of America. Sir became an assistant professor in 2004, associate professor in 2008, and a full professor in 2016, all at University of Minnesota. Professor Meredi is a co-author, inventor of 6 patents, nearly 90 peer-reviewed publications, and more than 50 meeting papers. So far, 56 undergraduates, 24 MS, 10 PhD, and 5 postdoc have received training under his mentorship. Currently, he supervises a research team of 12 personnel, including undergraduate and graduate students. Sir research area is in drug development of small molecule anti-cancer, antimicrobial, and disease-modifying therapeutics for neurodegenerative diseases. His lab students are highly trained in organic medicinal chemistry, in vitro as well as in vivo biology. They also have vast experience in conducting small animal experiments, including orthotopic surgeries. Sir's research is funded by NIH, DOD, and various other agencies. Coming about the teaching, Professor Meeradi teaches mainly to professional pharmacy students in pharmacy and graduate students of chemistry and biochemistry and integrated biosciences. Teaching responsibilities include medicinal chemistry, integrated oncology, chemical biology, cardiovascular agents, and advanced organic chemistry. He received 25 teaching awards in the past 16 years, highest by any University of Minnesota faculty, which include Teacher of the Semester, Professor of the Year, and College of Science and Engineering Young Teacher Award. Sir, we welcome you into our midst this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Abhilasha Garu, for the kind introduction.
Thank you, sir.
Can all of you hear me properly?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear?
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Dr.Y.Prashanthi Garu, for the kind invitation and organizing this wonderful webinar. The title I have put it deliberately as simple as possible, because this is the talk that I gave 1 week back to Shatavahana University at Karimnagar, but I have changed some of these slides so that if there are any repeat audience are there, then they won't get bored. Okay. The title is, by training, I'm an organic chemist, synthetic organic chemist, but my recent entry into the biology and then learning from the scratch. So what kind of adventures, what kind of things that I have done along with my students. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So that's why the title is Organic Chemist Foray in Search of Simple Therapeutics for Complex Diseases. I would like to start my talk by remembering Puja Bapuji for his simplicity as well as his willingness to accomplish things. Okay. Thank you, Bapuji, for all the inspiration. Simple thank you note to Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav sir for the wonderful science talk as well as your words of wisdom. Although our Vice Chancellor could not join, thank you for giving the permission to the organizers. Professor Shivraj sir, Dean of Faculty of Science, Osmania University, Professor Yadagiri sir, Registrar of MGU, and Professor Prashanthi Madam, the Department of Chemistry and the convener of this meeting, and all the organizers of this webinar, as well as all the faculty members, students, and all the other attendees. Thank you all for taking your time, and also thank you for inviting me. So before even going to my actual talk, okay, I'm going to talk about a little bit about my personal connection with Nalgonda. My mother was born in my mother and then all my maternal uncles. They were from a small village called Gadipalli village. It's about, I think, 60 or 70 kilometers from Nalgonda. And we used to visit in summer from Hyderabad. We used to visit this Gadipalli village when we were young. I mean, of course, I think in late 70s when we were kids, we used to visit. And then there is a beautiful temple one of my uncles built, Sri Aurobindo Temple. Okay. It's a circular temple, as you can see that here. Yeah. So this temple, and then as kids we used to play in the summertime, and then we used to sleep inside the temple also after getting tired. Okay, and one of my uncles was a great devotee of Sri Aurobindo. So this is the inside of the temple we have, and I always used to think that, like a self-dabba, I used to think that I'm a good person, but compared to so many great people, I know that I'm nothing. So this is one of my uncles, Dr. Sri Ganta Gopal Reddy. He did, and nowadays coming to America or going to any other country is so easy. But in 1950s, when India was so much underdeveloped, and then going abroad was not that easy. So he did his master's and PhD in agricultural research. And then after that, he came back and joined Rajendra Nagar Agricultural University as a faculty member. But he was not happy because in those days, India was underdeveloped, especially in Telangana region, Gadipalli, that small, all the nearby small villages were so much underdeveloped that all this MS and PhD of US education, that he didn't want it to be just for himself. So he resigned to that professor job. And then he came back to his village and did so many things. For next 50 years, he did so many things. Okay? And then he's the founder of this Sri Aurobindo Institute of Rural Development. Okay? So this is also called, it's an ICAR institute, it's a Krishi Vigyan Kendra. And he started in late 70s. Okay? And they help farmers in many different ways, sustainable agriculture, and then several things that they do over there. Sadly, he passed away 2 years back. Here he is receiving an award from Sri Sri. And not only that, all his life savings, he's invested on starting the school, Sri Aurobindo Educational Academy in the same village, in the Gadipalli village. Here the children are educated up to middle school, free of cost in English medium. And all these underprivileged kids are provided great education over there. So, I mean, so many things I have a good connection, my childhood memories. So with this, okay, I always give, since some of you in the audience are students, okay, I always tell this story. Probably I may not be able to tell you how to give a seminar, yes, but I can tell you how not to give a seminar. Okay, it's a mixture of some tragedy and comedy. So back in those days when I was searching for jobs, faculty jobs, you know, I was invited by University of Minnesota College of Pharmacy to give, as a faculty candidate, you have to give some seminar, especially your research seminar. Here, Subhash, Professor Subhash Donalagada, who is the next speaker after me. Okay? So he was a student at that time. Okay? In fact, it was his PhD thesis. Okay? And Subhash was the person who made all these slides. And after that, as you can see, that we made this. We used to.
एक्टिविटीज मैनेज करें, टाइमली प्रिपेयर्ड रहे, वो नोटिस आपको देने पड़ते हैं, करने वो प्रिपेयर नहीं।
Okay.
वो क्लास में ले रही है।
Can I request?
फायदा क्या
What is it?
ऑनलाइन होने के बाद भी सब
Sir, please.
Excuse me, sir. I request all the participants to mute yourself, please. Please, sir. Sir, please unmute, sir. You are in mute, sir. Sir, you can. Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So this was the molecule that we made. It was a potent anti-cancer molecule. So I wanted to impress the audience and all the faculty members and students because you are looking for job, and then I wanted to impress them with bombardment of the data so that they will get impressed to give a job. Okay. So why is that? All right. Okay. So this is the, and then Subhash was the one who made these slides. He helped me in making these slides, and then I requested him to put all these colors also. Okay. So, and after putting all these colors and everything, and my talk went like this. Okay. Although we published in 2004, but it was a talk somewhere around 2003. Okay. So it was out and out. So a lot of students were there and faculty members were there. And then of course I was all suited up with tie and other things. Then I talked like this, that, okay, we started the C1 to C8 subunit of this discodamide with this benzyloxyl propionaldehyde, and then it was treated with BLL disulfonocamphylborane at minus 78 degrees centigrade to give the homolytic alcohol, which was protected as a TBS ether, to give this TBS protected homolytic alcohol in 94% enantiomeric excess, which was ozonized to give this aldehyde, and then which was subjected to this ecrotyl disulfonocamphylborane to give this homolytic alcohol in 92% diastereomeric excess. So like that, I start, no introduction, nothing, out and out, this kind of, and then after 10 minutes, I realized that half the students were sleeping, and everyone, I don't think anybody was paying attention, but at the time, I realized that nobody was interested in my talk, and then either they were not understanding what I was talking, or they just didn't care that whatever the data I was presenting. Okay. So, but this was the only thing that I had. I mean, and then also it was not just an ordinary talk, and it was my job interview. Okay. So you want to impress them as much as possible. So within 15 minutes, I lost all my interest. But the thing is that you can't say that, okay, I don't want to give talk anymore. Okay. So then I continued like this. I had 60 slides like this. Okay. So mostly it was taken from Subhash at the time student. Okay. But now he's a professor and head of the department of chemistry. He's going to talk after me in this webinar. Okay. So then the funny thing is that after the talk, my dean, College of Pharmacy, he told that he attended more than 500 seminars. And this is the first time that he did not understand a single word of what I talked. The thing he asked, is it anything, whatever I did, is it anything related to pharmacy? That's what he asked. See, imagine that in the interview, so that nobody understood, no questions. And the dean told that out of 500 seminars, this is the first time that he didn't understand a single word. Okay. So, but they still gave me the job. Okay. So that was the story. So the moral of the story is that, especially for you students, that nobody will get impressed if you are only bombarding them with technical data, wherein this kind of data is only catered towards very few members of the audience, maybe 2-3 hardcore synthetic people may understand what I'm talking. But that should not be the purpose of giving a seminar wherein that only 2-3 people will understand, rest of the folks, they don't even care. Okay. So that was the big lesson I learned while being interviewed for the job. And initial research, rather than telling it again, I'm telling this as a story of how I evolved from synthetic organic chemistry to more into the biological area. And then, we did all the organoboron research. So initially, we did develop some reagents like this kind of boron-based reagents. We licensed it, and then we patented and licensed it to Sigma Aldrich. Long time backstory, these are all. Okay. And in those days, there is something called as tenure. When you are an assistant professor in United States, there is something, first 5 years are you are on the job trial. It's called as tenure process. Within 5 years, you have to do a lot of good teaching, and then you have to apply for a number of grants, and you have to get a lot of grant funding, and then you have to do a lot of publications, train students, and then get 10 to 12 external letters from your peers. And before the department decides, university decides whether to make your job permanent or not. If you don't make tenure, then you are kicked out. So it means that once you start as an assistant professor, there's a tenure clock kicking. So you have to do within that 5 years, everything. So that's why I was playing to my strength of making molecules. That was my strength. So we made some more, rather than making bigger complex molecules, complex but smaller molecules as a natural product anti-cancer agents. So we developed several methodologies. I'm not going to talk about it. Okay. Subhash at the time was my collaborator. He obtained his job as a faculty member at Rowan University. Okay. And Srinivas was my master's student, and Matt was my pharmacy student. Abrar Alam was my postdoc. And then, as you can see, that we did all organic chemistry, and then we published a few papers, developed a few methodologies. Okay. And this also, you can see that again and again, we made several methodologies and published. Okay. But in this, since we wanted to develop as anti-cancer agents, whatever we are doing, it not only synthetic methodologies, but in those days, I didn't know any biology. So I did not do any biology course in my life. Only connection with cell was with my cell phone connection. That's the only cell that I had the connection with. Yeah. So we used to collaborate with a colleague in medical school, and we used to give them samples. But the thing is that they were very busy. By the time we obtained the results, simple in vitro data on the cancer cells, whether they're active or not, it would take around 6 months, 1 year. Unfortunately, all these compounds that initially we did not show any activity. Okay. Fortunately, we could publish papers because we developed new chemistry. So without biology also. So we published a few papers. But after obtaining, as you can see that we did not get any biology activity, but because of the chemistry strength, we at least published few papers. So that's what, after the tenure, then I disbanded all that kind of research. So I wanted to simplify the chemistry, okay, so that we still use organic chemistry, but I slowly venture out, because that when you know that it's permanent, you can now take the risky projects. Okay? Even if you don't, you can learn new things. You can take up risky projects. You can come out of your comfort zone and then explore new areas. Okay. So that's where then I started learning and I started reading some biology papers. Okay. So the title, that's the reason I put it as an organic chemist foray into the biology. Okay. Everything towards the discovery of therapeutics for complex diseases. So again, I wanted to do research, something disease-based. Initially, I took up the cancer thing. Okay. Although now we do microbiology as well as neurodegenerative diseases and then few other areas, liver diseases and other things. But in interest of time, today I'm going to talk about cancers only. Okay. And rather than showing it in the end, where your attention span is not that great, I always show the most important slide, that is the acknowledgement. Remember that I did not do a single reaction or a single biology. Everything has been done by my students. Okay. Other than providing the facilities and then project, everything has been done by the students. Today, I'm going to talk about mainly from Shirisha's thesis work. Okay? And she graduated last year. Last year, Shirisha, Shravan, Grady, and Luke, they graduated with their PhDs, and they all went for a top postdocs. And just Connor is another student who just graduated last week, and he has gone to Harvard Medical School for his postdoc. Okay. So all these current students, Tanner, Zach, Mike, Grishma, Nathan, Matt, Mike, Amy. So all these students, I thank them, sincerely thank them for all their hard work. In fact, I learn a lot from them. Okay? It's not that students only learn from me. Okay? I also learn from them. Of course, I also thank my former student, Subhash, but he's now he's a collaborator for me. Okay? And he's a professor and head at the Department of Chemistry and Biology at Rowan University. He's going to talk to me next. So Subhash and I talked yesterday, and then we discussed that rather than just an hour talk of each, okay, I'll give some introduction, because some basics introduction, and then I'll tell my side of the story thing, so that I will take a little bit more time than what has been allocated to me. And Subhash has kindly agreed that he will give a brief overview of what he's doing for half hour. So I will take a little bit extra time, but we will finish. Okay, Dr. Subhash and I will finish within 2 hours. Okay. Not only even last 20 years, not only was my student, and then last 10, 12 years, he's been my collaborator also. So that's why I'm talking a little bit on his behalf also. Of course, not only you need the manpower to do it, but you need funding also, right? Money is honey. So no money, no work. Everything, on an average, we spend around $2,000 per day. And then to get $2,000, then it means that I have to get at least $4,000, because university takes 50% cut as an indirect cost. So there is a tremendous pressure on me to raise funds all the time. So 80% of my time goes in fighting for the grants. Usually all these bigger grants, they are funded at the rate of 5 percentile to 10 percentile. So it means that 90% of the total submitted grants, they don't get funded. Okay? All the top guns, a small person like me, all those Berkeley, Harvard, Stanford, MIT, and all those Nobel laureates, and then everyone applies for the same pot of money. It means that you have to compete with them to get the money. Fortunately, our research has been funded by different agencies over the years. And because of that, we are able to do our research. I sincerely thank them for the generous financial support. So I'm going to talk about the cancer statistics, American Cancer Society. Cancer statistics, if you look at the 2020 statistics. So these are the male and then female, about in just the United States statistics, these are, okay, close to around 90,000, close to around, 900,000 men are diagnosed with different types of cancers. And for females also, it's the same story, 1 to 1. So there's no advantage of being male or a female. Male and female are equally diagnosed. And for men, it's a prostate cancer. There are about 60 cancers are there. Other than your nail and hair, any body part can get the cancer. Okay. It can be, you can be infant baby or a toddler, or you can be a youth, adult, or even an old person. Doesn't matter, at any age. Okay. It can strike. And for men, it's a prostate cancer. About out of 60 major cancers, 20% of them are prostate cancer for men. For women, it's breast cancer is about 30% of it, the breast cancers. So 1 in 8 women have a lifetime risk of getting breast cancer. And the lung cancer is number 2 for both men and women. That's because mainly, of course, smoking is not the only reason, but smoking can definitely cause lung cancer. That's why Indian government is doing really great in terms of advertising the bad effects of smoking. Colorectal cancer is number 3. 9% and 8%, number 3 in terms of incidence. And I want to mention here pancreatic cancer, which is number 3. Is only 3% of the patients are diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, number 20 in terms of incidence. But if you look at the mortality down here, it's number 4. It's one of the deadly cancers. 99% of the patients die of pancreatic cancer. Absolutely, there's no, right now we have no drug or any surgical procedure or anything that can cure pancreatic cancer. It's one of the deadly cancers out there. Okay. Although lung cancer is number 2, but lung cancer for both men and women, it's number 1 in terms of patient mortality. Okay. Prostate cancer is number 2, although number 1 in terms of incidence. Similarly, breast cancer is number 1 in terms of incidence, but number 2 in terms of patient mortality. Okay. So these are some of the statistics of different types of cancers. So our disease focus is that when you right now, when you say it is not a single disease. We are talking right now, the count is 765 different cancers are there. When you talk about cancer, we'll ask what type of cancer. You say breast cancer, what type of breast cancer? Is it hormone positive? If it is a hormone positive, estrogen receptor positive or a progesterone receptor positive? Or is it HER2 positive? If it is a hormone negative, or is it triple negative? So different subtypes of breast cancers are there. So like that, we have 765 different types of cancers are there. Okay. So we are interested in this triple negative breast cancer and metastatic breast cancers, which are very aggressive type. And then similarly, just now I mentioned that pancreatic cancer, although number 20 in terms of incidence, but number 4 in terms of patient mortality, because pretty much everyone dies of pancreatic cancer diagnosis. Okay. Another one that we are interested in is glioblastoma multiforme. Glioblastoma is a deadly form of brain tumor. Okay. Again, the incidence rate is very low, but pretty much everyone dies of this glioblastoma. Okay. So these are some of the difficult to treat diseases that we want to develop therapeutics. So in the interest of time, as I mentioned, that we are interested in triple negative breast cancer because other than the standard chemotherapy, they don't have any therapeutics out there. Okay. Initially they respond, but pretty much everyone relapse. And then once they relapse, once the cancer comes back, they become drug resistant. And then eventually it leads to patient death. Okay. And metastatic breast cancer also, it's a stage 4 cancer wherein it has metastasized to other body parts. Okay. And pancreatic cancer, the all stage 5-year survival rate of this disease is just 5%. Okay. The gold standard, you never use the term cure in cancer. The reason is that after the treatment, surgical resection, after the radiation therapy, chemotherapy and everything. So when you go for the scan, probably in the scan, you don't see the cancer. So that means that you're functionally cured. Functionally cured, that doesn't mean that you don't have the cancer. Yeah. It's just that we don't have the capability to detect those tiny bit of whatever is remaining. Maybe few cells are remaining. Out of million, just maybe 4 or 5 cells are remaining there. Okay. They are not detectable by this imaging. Okay. So, but those few cells that remain can repopulate the whole tumor and the cancer can come back. Yeah. The survival, that's why we say that the gold standard is 5 years. The statistics say that any cancer, okay, what is the 5-year survival rate? Will I live after 5 years or not? What is the survival advantage? So these are some things that we talk about in the cancer. So we never use the term cure. Okay. The 5-year survival rate, which is the gold standard, is just 5%. So pretty much everyone dies of pancreatic cancer. That's why we need novel therapeutic protocols. Similarly, glioblastoma, the 5-year survival rate is also again low, very low. Okay. And the median survival is just 1 year after the diagnosis. So as I mentioned that I did not undergo any formal biology training. Out and out, I did only the organic synthesis. So I started learning, and then it used to take me reading one paper It used to take me like 3-4 days because I didn't understand anything. So any word I would type in the Google and then learn. So so that's how difficult it was to read. Okay. So I was reading that, okay, you want to do the disease focus is there, but when you don't know any thing about, because when you don't have a formal training and then you want to enter the field, I was looking for what kind of targets, what is it that cancer cells are different from normal cells. So I was looking and then reading. So some of the hallmarks reported by Hanahan and Weinberg. Okay? And you can see that there are several hallmarks that are different in cancer compared to normal cells. So it means that we can target them to achieve some sort of selectivity and some sort of therapeutic efficacy. And the same Hanahan and Weinberg, as we understand more and more biology of cancers, then they found that several other important hallmarks. Okay. So I was looking what to focus. So something which caught my attention was the deregulating cellular energy. See, everybody needs to eat food. And then you have normal cells, and cancer cells are growing much rapidly than cancer cells. That's what the tumor is forming. Okay. So cancer is nothing but abnormal growth of cells. So it means that they need to have more energy because they are growing rapidly. So they need to have more energy. If we can target this cellular energy, then it means that we can develop a therapeutic. So this is what caught my attention, is deregulating cellular energy. As I mentioned that back in those days when we made molecules, we used to give it to some of our colleagues in biology or in the medical school, but it would take 6 months to 1 year. And then we didn't know whatever we made, they were active or not. So you don't have that kind of time to wait that many months just to get a cell culture data thing. So we thought that, okay, let's learn this, start growing cell culture. It took us 2 to 3 years to invest, learning, trial and error, training. And then now our lab has several cell lines all the time. My students, not only they do organic synthesis, now we have all kinds of in vitro cultures, cancer cells as well as non-cancer cells. We have at least 14 cell lines we have. For example, triple negative MDMB231, SCC1395. And we have hormone positive cell lines like NCF7 and tamoxifen resistant cell lines. We have metastatic breast cancer, murin ones 41. And not only 41, it has luciferin attached to it. Okay. And then the pancreatic cancer cell line, glioma cell lines. Okay. All these luciferase stacks, we can do the bioluminescence imaging. Also we can do. And then also, of course, non-cancerous cell lines to see the selectivity also. And now we have not only the tissue culture lab, we also have now biochemistry and molecular biology labs, wherein we can do all kinds of cell proliferation inhibition like sulfurodamine, SRB-based assay, MTT-based assays. We can do normoxic, hypoxic conditions, radioactive things. We can do Western blots and flow cytometer. So many things that we can do now. It took another 2 more years to establish all these facilities, and then also to understand what's happening and then how to do things correctly. But when we apply to the grants, the granting agencies would always come down heavily. They say, where is the animal data? You only have cell culture data. So it means that you only have the in vitro data. What is the, so it means that what you are doing is in Petri dishes. What is the guarantee that they will work out in the animals? But the thing is that doing animals is a totally different ball game. It takes a lot more than effort and resources, training to do these animals. You have to write so many proteins. Not that just like that you can buy animals and do research. Okay? So they are kept in a 5-star facility. And then so many ethical considerations are involved, and we have to write proposals to get approvals. And then only we can do that. But fortunately, we spent another 3 more years to establish these animals. Now we have different types of tumor models optimized in lab, including this triple negative MDA-based triple negative breast cancer one. In fact, I don't have it here, but we also have the patient-derived xenograft models also. We have this glioblastoma model, as you can see that here. My students can now do the animal surgeries without any problem. For example, under anesthesia, the animal. So we can do these are like small mice. okay, 25 gram mice. And so we open the, we cut open the brain and then micro drill the skull, and then we can inoculate using a stereotaxis machine. We can inoculate and then suture it back. As you can see that we can image them non-invasively. The tumor is growing inside. Okay? And then this particular one here is 41. 41 is a stage 4 breast cancer, very, very aggressive type of tumor, this one. And so all kinds of tumor models are now optimized. So I always tell that I could survive by doing just organic chemistry. I always tell the students that you have to know more than simple chemistry, because everything is global. Everything is very competitive now, okay, compared to what we had back in those days. So I'm glad that my students responded beautifully, and now they can do surgeries, animal surgeries, they can write animal protocols, and they can do biochemistry, molecular biology experiments, and they can do, of course, organic chemistry, which is our bread and butter. So now that we have all the facilities and then all the things that we can do in-house, okay. So remember that I wanted to deliberately do simple chemistry in search of therapeutics, because when you're doing a very complex molecule, then it means that 90% of your time you're spending only in chemistry. So it means that then you will, and if they don't show up the activity, then the project is dead. Rather than doing that way, what we want to do is that we want to do simple molecules, okay? And even if they don't work out, but at least you didn't waste too much of time in making them. Okay? So, but the risk is that high risk, high reward kind of thing. But since we are making simple molecules, if they don't show activity, then you have no publication. Also, students, see, for me, it doesn't matter but whether I publish or not, but the students, so there has to be proof that they have actually done some work. Okay? So back in those days when we didn't have the activity, still we published papers. The reason was that at least we had a good chemistry. So on the chemistry power, we published it. But now the chemistry is super duper simple. So it means that we are not discovering any new chemistry. So it means that if there is no biological activity, then there is no publication also. So that was the risk that we were taking. So as I read more and more about this cancer biology, then one of the things that, as I just now mentioned, that deregulating the cellular energy is something that I was interested in. And then in this aerobic glycolysis inhibitors, why is that aerobic glycolysis? As you can see that cancer cells, they upregulate this aerobic glycolysis, and then this altered metabolism is one of the hallmarks of cancers. So this is a very inefficient process, but this is very rapid. And then since cancer cells require energy, so they highly upregulate this aerobic glycolysis. In the aerobic glycolysis, what's happening is that you are taking glucose, and then it is being processed into lactate and pyruvate. So, and then you know that lactic acid is an acidic, small carboxylic acid. If the cell is generating more lactic acid, then the cell pH will become very acidic, and then the cell will die. So in order to avoid that one, what they do is that they express these transporters, something called as monocarboxylate transporters. Okay? What they do is that they shuttle this small glycolysis products, ketone bodies they are called as, like lactic acid, pyruvic acid, and other ketone bodies. What they do is that they influx and efflux. Okay? So cancers, when we talk about the tumor, they are not a single entity. It's like if you have 1 gram of tumor, they have their own little world, little microenvironment, wherein some cells are pursuing this aerobic glycolysis, some cells are pursuing oxidative phosphorylation, some cells are pursuing this intermediate phenotype. Okay? So if you try to target one, they can survive, because there's a lot of challenges there for them to survive, because always nutritional challenge is there. And so they always, cancer cells, they have this ability to survive. Okay? And so these transporters are highly upregulated. Okay? Although there are 14 isoforms are known, but MCT1 and 4 are known to be involved in this particular influx and efflux of these ketone bodies. As you can see, the clinical relevance, high MCT1 expression is associated with poor patient prognosis in many different types of cancers, high profile cancers. And MCT4 is even bad. It's there in pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, triple negative breast cancer, all kinds of bad cancers. It is available. So targeting these transporters, okay, will stop this influx and efflux of these glycolytic end products. So that way then we can target the cellular energy and then achieve probably the therapeutic efficacy or anti-cancer efficacy. Okay. Just now, as I mentioned, that tumor cells, some of them are pursuing oxidative phosphorylation, some of them are pursuing glycolysis. And when the glucose is converted into a lactate, and the lactate is effluxed out by these transporters, MCTs, and then this lactate is converted into pyruvate in the cytoplasm, and then this pyruvate is transported inside the mitochondria for oxidative phosphorylation of the TCA cycle. Okay. So like that, nothing is going as a waste. You think that typically lactic acid is a waste product? No, it's a useful product for these cancer cells. Yeah. So it means that by targeting these transporters, then we can stop this glycolytic process, that energetic process. Okay. And not only that, as I mentioned, that these cancer cells, they have this glycolysis, oxidative phosphorylation, few other processes also, energetic process. They develop this kind of plasticity wherein they can go back and forth. Okay. If you're targeting glycolysis, they can go to oxidative phosphorylation, or if you're targeting mitochondria, then they can survive on aerobic glycolysis. So they this kind of plastic behavior they develop, they can go back and forth. So, but these MCTs are involved. As you can see that their MCTs are involved in propagating this plasticity and then propagating the cell proliferation. By targeting and by developing drug candidates for these MCTs, then we can stop the cell tumor growth effectively. That was our hypothesis. But at the time when we started, we didn't know whether these transporters, MCTs, are druggable targets or not. Not everything that is involved is a druggable target. So, but again, see, that's a risk that you take. Okay? I wanted to see something nobody has done, wherein you take the risk. Maybe that your hypothesis on the paper is fine, but in reality, we don't know whether it would work out or not. Okay? So that was one thing, that's something that 7 or 8 years back we started this project. The same thing, that we want to develop this MCT1 and MCT4 inhibitors and then targeting this metabolic plasticity. You know that back in those days, when we did only organic synthesis, so we did only this kind of discodenamide and all kinds of complex natural products, asymmetric synthesis. We didn't worry about any biology. So now, but we can't afford to do this kind of synthesis, because then we will not be, it will take, because Subhash was the one who made it, who is going to speak after me. So he was a student at the time, and then he made in his PhD thesis, but it took him 5 years to make this molecule. So it's that kind of complex molecule. Yeah. So we didn't want to do any of this type of research anymore. Okay. I took this simple molecule. I was searching for where to start. Then I found back in 1976 that, okay, biochemists are using this simple parahydroxycyanosinamic acid, CHC it is called as. Okay. So this is the one, something that they are using it as an MCT inhibitor for biochemical function. Nobody knew whether MCT was involved in any pathogenesis, whether it can be targeted or anything. We thought that this looks like our type of molecule, wherein we can rapidly generate a large library of compounds. So we took a simple reaction called as no-ivanazole condensation. Those who are MSc students or even the BSc students in the audience, they would understand that no-ivanazole condensation is a very old classical reaction. It was discovered by Emil no-ivanazole in 1898, more than 100 years back. Okay. And then it is used in the teaching labs. I'm sure that you have done the condensation reaction in your MSc lab, teaching lab. The thing, simple thing, if you have an aldehyde, you can treat with an activated carbonyl and some base, and then you get this condensed product. Okay, very super duper simple chemistry. But the thing is that if you do this chemistry, then if you don't have any activity, biological activity, then there's no publication because you are only doing the known reaction, which was known for 100 years. It's even done in the teaching labs. Okay. So we made my students Shirisha and Shravan. So they made and Abrar and Grady and all these students, postdocs, they made more than 300 compounds. And then they not only characterized it, and then they evaluated the biochemical assay using a carbon-14 based lactate assay. So we did good structure activity study. In the interest of time, I'm not going to talk about the structure activity, okay? Because all this has been published a few years back. As you can see that just by taking this aldehyde and treating with this cyanosinamic acid, cyanoesteric acid and a small base, and then you can condense it, novinazole condensation, and then you get this cyanosinamic acid. Super duper simple. Okay? Absolutely no column chromatography also was required. Okay? Just filter and then recrystallize, you get analytically pure samples. Then after that, to see that whether they are inhibiting this, because we want to develop this MCT1 as well as MCT4 because they are involved in the metabolic plasticity between the aerobic cancer cells as well as oxidative cancer cells. Okay. For MCT1, we took several cell lines. For example, rat brain endothelial cell, it has MCT1 predominantly expressed, and glioma 261, it also has this MCT1. And for MCT1, we took MDA231, and MDA231 cell line is a triple negative breast cancer cell line. It predominantly expresses MCT4. So then we did the radioactive lactate measurements to see how they are able to inhibit in the presence of our test compounds. And from the 300, these NN-dialkyl substituted or diaryl substituted cyanosinamic acids were found to be very good. As you can see that this particular one was more than 150 micromolar concentration. When you're developing a drug, you preferably want to have as much potent as possible. The advantage is that if you have a potent compound, then it means that you can give small amount of the drug and you can achieve maximum therapeutic efficacy. I mean, when you take, if it is, when you take a pill, if you take a tablet, you want to take a 50 milligram tablet, 100 milligram tablet. You don't want to take 100-gram tablet, right? And typically 100 grams we eat at breakfast or something like that. So it means that your compound has to be potent. If it is not potent, it means that you have to give it higher concentration. If you give it higher concentration, what will happen is that then it may not have the selectivity. During the circulation, it can interact with other body parts, other enzymes, targets, and then you will have a lot of side effects and toxicity issues also. Okay. Fortunately, these compounds were found to be very potent. You can see that some of them are in the low nanomolar potency. And my students, they like this kind of. Okay. So this was about 150 micromolar, and some of these things are like single digit nanomolar potency, 10,000 times potent. These compounds are. Okay. So now that these compounds are in vitro, at least they are potent. Obviously, we can't take up everything. We shortlisted 5 of them, and these 5 of them we wanted to further develop. As you can see that they have varying levels of solubility and the structural features. First thing we did was that test the systemic toxicity. Remember that these MCTs are ubiquitously expressed. So cancer cells may have some overexpression, but when you are dealing with the potent inhibition of these metabolic transporters, which are required by the normal cells also. Okay. So what if cells doesn't matter, you're only doing it in the petri dish. But the thing is that what if, because heart tissues have MCTs, kidneys have MCTs, and you are dealing with very potent these MCT inhibitors. And if you inject it to the mice, then if it has toxicity effects, if they die, then your project is dead. Then there's no more further development. So we started with this systemic toxicity studies on these mice. And we the shortlisted compound, for example, this diphenylcinamic acid. cyanocyanamic acid. First, initially we did in CD1 mice. Okay, you can see that it's 50 milligram per kilogram we gave dose, and that means that for 100 kilo person it may translate to like 5 grams. You never give 5 gram pill. Thing. It means that it's a very high dosage that we have started with. Okay, and some of these derivatives, lead compounds, we even gave 70 milligram per kilogram, and then even twice daily also. So it means, and then fortunately, as you can see, the treated and untreated mice, none of the mice died. Okay, and then we observed for the body weight gains. Body weight gains are normal, treated and untreated. We looked for the animals' grooming patterns, because these mice, they have these grooming patterns. They groom themselves all the time. So whether are they lethargic, are they showing any toxic effects, are they eating properly? And then at the end of the study, we euthanize them and then harvest the organs and then send it for veterinary pathologist for any microscopic changes to see at the microscopic level whether they are being affected or not. And then we do the blood counts, WBC and RBC counts. Fortunately, all the toxicity parameters came out very nice. Okay? So reassured by this non-toxicity nature of these potent compounds, now the next thing is that are they efficacious enough? Do they do the tumor growth reduction? Okay. The first thing we did was that using this lead compound, we used this WADR, which is a colorectal cancer tumor model. The reason why we took WADR was that it expresses predominantly in CT1. Okay. And as you can see that intraperitoneal injection, it's about 56% tumor growth. This is untreated. This black one is the untreated tumor volume. And this is the treated one. The treated one, as you can see that they're able to suppress the tumor growth. And in this 45% is when you give it as an oral gavage, instead of injection, when you give it as a tablet type, oral gavage, and then a little bit less reduction is there. So we took, university took a patent, and my students and I, we published a paper on this particular result. And then MCT4 is also, in fact, in pancreatic cancer as well as triple negative breast cancer, it's involved. So we did the MCT4 expression tumors also. For example, for this we took MDMB231. In the Western blot that I showed, that this particular cell line predominantly expresses MCT4. And as you can see that this is the tumor growing in the animals. For this particular one, we use the nude mice, not the nude mice, skid mice, okay, which are immunocompromised. As you can see that when the untreated one, the tumor is growing like anything. Okay, volume is growing. As the days grow, the tumor gets more and more aggressive. Okay, so this time the red one here is the doxorubicin. Doxorubicin is a clinically used anti-cancer agent. Okay, you can see that it's able to suppress. And the green one is our diphenyl cyanocyanamic acid, our lead derivative. It's able to do significant tumor growth inhibition. When we combine doxorubicin with our compound, then we are able to see a synergy. So 56% with our inhibitor. The similar type of inhibition was observed with the clinical agent. But remember that doxorubicin is DNA topoisomerase inhibitor, DNA intercalating agent, and DNA poison. And then it's a topo poison, it's called as. It's a deadly toxic molecule. Okay? And whereas these compounds are highly non-toxic. Okay? So similar efficacy it's able to show. And last year, my students and I, we published this paper. In fact, Shirisha, Shravan, Grady, Connor, Luke, they all did excellent job of doing these animal studies. And not only this cyanocyanamic acid, and then we further developed coumarin-based molecules also. The same, we didn't do any chemistry-wise, it's super duper same. In fact, I'm sure that you are taking salicylaldehyde, and then you are in your MSc teaching lab. MSc lab, your MSc first year or second year students who do teaching lab, maybe you take diethyl malonate and salicylaldehyde and probably piperidine or sodium hydroxide you add, and then you make coumarin. Okay, carboxycoumarins you make. I'm sure that at least here we do, teaching lab. I'm sure that I remember doing when I was MSc student. Yeah. So this super duper simple carboxycoumarins we can obtain. And using this lead derivative, okay, this time what we did was that, sorry for a little bit rushing through, because I want to give opportunity to Subhash also. So another 15 minutes or so I will take. And since we started a little bit late, so I want to tell the story. And this time using this coumarin-based molecule, and we did the syngeneic tumor model. Syngeneic is that, and for this purpose, we use these bulb-C mice, and then they are immunocompetent mice. And we grow the tumors, the glioma tumor model, glioblastoma brain tumor model. And you can see that untreated one is very aggressive. Within 2 weeks, it's getting crazy. And then within 1 month, mice die without the treatment. It's that aggressive. Okay. And temozolomide is the one which is a clinically used brain tumor drug. It's able to suppress efficiently. And you can see that our MCT inhibitor also is able to suppress. So our coumarin-based compound is 87%. Temozolomide is similar type of efficacy was obtained. Okay. This also we published a few years back. And not only we did it, using our compounds, these coumarin-based compounds, Belgium group, Sonwas group in Belgium, they did other tumor models. For example, cervical cancer. So this is the using CHA cell line. This is the untreated. The tumor is growing, and using this coumarin-based MCT inhibitors, you can see that tumor is suppressed. Tumor growth is at least inhibited. Okay. MCF7 is estrogen receptor positive breast cancer tumor model. In this case also, it's a little bit slow growing tumor. So in this also, untreated one, the tumor is growing, and the treated compound, tumor is suppressed. At least tumor growth is inhibited. I wouldn't say tumor suppression. So I'm glad that not only we did it, and using our compounds, others are also able to do that one in different tumor models. And not only that, Sonwas group also did with combined it with cisplatin, and they are able to see the synergy. It's able to do even better job than cisplatin. As you can see that this is the cisplatin for cervical cancer, and this is the untreated one, and this is the compound treated one. Although they didn't see great synergy, but as a single agent, these carboxycoumarins have done a good job of reducing the tumor growth. And they took this bladder cancer model, UMUC3, which doesn't have MCT expression. As you can see that no MCT expression and no tumor growth. It means that our compounds may not be having too much off-target effects. So this is one way of showing the proof that they're a little bit more targeted and more tolerated also. I should have had these slides. Okay. This probably, okay. Maybe just in 2 minutes, I'll talk about the data, some mechanism data. We thought that initially we were the only ones who are doing this research. But AstraZeneca, it's a big pharmaceutical company, multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical company. AstraZeneca has a branch in India also. Okay. And they came up with their own drug molecule. For example, this is the AZD, AstraZeneca's drug 3965. They came up with as an MCT inhibitor. Okay. And then we purchased their drug molecule. Okay. The small 5 milligrams, we purchased it for $500. And we compared directly against our drug candidates to see the efficacy, especially different glycolysis as well as mitochondrial stress parameters. Okay. You can see that the red one is our diphenyl compound, is able to suppress. The green one is the NN-dibutyl one, is able to do a good job of suppression. And this is the one, AZD molecule. So compared to AZD, our candidates are able to much more potently suppress. Yeah. This is on MDMB231. Similarly, WADR also, the red one and green one, they're able to do a much better job of glycolysis suppression than AZD compound, okay? AstraZeneca's compound. Okay. Similarly, the mitochondrial parameters also, our compounds are able to do a much better job. AZD is this purple color one. You can see that purple color one, no mitochondrial parameters it's affecting, whereas ours, not only glycolytic parameters, it's also able to do mitochondrial parameters it's affecting, okay, and in a very efficient way. So at the potential of, I put this, our drug candidates, a tentative name I gave, since we are from state of Minnesota, so I gave MN, and D is our town Duluth, as well as drug 1, drug 2 type. Okay, so these are the simple diphenyl cyanocyanamic acid is our first generation one. MN D2 and D3 carboxycoumarine based ones, they are the second generation ones. As you can see that anywhere between 60%, 80% at the single agents they are able to do. In fact, cervical cancer and estrogen receptor positive breast cancers are done by the Belgium group. Okay, the other studies we have done it in-house. So it means that wide variety of tumors we can use our drug candidates. Okay. So as I mentioned that a lot of parameters that we tested AstraZeneca's, our compounds are found to be far better. If you directly compare MN D1, D2, and D3 simple humble coumarines and cyanocyanamic acids, okay, with this AstraZeneca's drug candidate, so they require about 12 steps to make it, whereas we require just 2 to 4 steps, including the starting material preparation. Okay. So they have low nanomolar potency for MCT1. We also have a low nanomolar potency for MCT1 inhibition. Okay. They don't have, the AZD3965 doesn't have any MCT4 inhibition properties, whereas our drug candidates have low nanomolar potency for MCT4 also. Okay. And no MPC. MPC is the mitochondrial pyruvate carrier. Recently, we found that, unfortunately, I don't have that much time to talk about MPC. Okay. So, but we found that it has a low nanomolar potency for MPC activity also. So, our compounds appear better than AZD compounds. Okay. Recently, AstraZeneca's compound entered the phase 1 clinical trials. Remember that we are a small academic lab. We always are fighting for little money. But AstraZeneca is a multi-billion-dollar company. If they want to take up a drug and then take it to the clinical trials, they can throw in $50 million, $100 million. They have no problem. They don't need to raise money. Okay. So hopefully we'll be able to do some more toxicology studies in higher animals such as dogs. Okay. And eventually we submit an IND application to FDA to initiate the clinical trials. That's what is our next goal using these candidate compounds. Okay, I mean, as I told that, these compounds not only affect this MCT and MCT4 are transmembrane proteins, okay, but these also enter the cytoplasm. And then, as you can see that epifluorescence microscopy it is, they enter and then they accumulate near the mitochondria also. So we knew that these compounds are affected, since they are affecting the mitochondrial parameters. So we didn't exactly know at the time what type of protein it is targeting in the mitochondria, but they are accumulating at the mitochondria. So we just saw that using our compounds, a Nature paper appeared, okay, these carboxycoumarines that they are actually targeting a mitochondrial pyruvate carrier also near the mitochondria. And as you can see that this coumarine, again, the cervical cancer model, they have excellent synergy with radiation therapy. They are able to do very efficiently this tumor growth inhibition in combination with radiation therapy also. So now this opens up so many possibilities. Not only that our compounds are MCT1 and 4 inhibition properties, but they also have this mitochondrial pyruvate carrier inhibition, and they are totally non-toxic. You can give them at high concentrations without any problem. Although we were happy with 60% tumor growth inhibition, 80% tumor growth inhibition, what we are interested in is that how can we make it 100% so that the cancer can be completely suppressed, not the 80%. It means that if you stop the treatment, the tumor can come back again, tumor can regrow. So that was the thing that, So they are in a dynamic equilibrium. Very high levels of metabolic plasticity is happening. If you target one pathway, it's not happening very efficiently. Okay? So we thought that let's target another pathway also. Let's rather than targeting this, because mostly we are targeting lactate influx and efflux. Okay? So it means that we are stopping at the rear end. How about stopping at when you are eating food, there is a front end and rear end. So we are stopping at the rear end. How about stop at the front end also, and then combine these drugs so that we are efficiently targeting the metabolic plasticity. So this was one of our modified hypotheses. So we did the literature search, and Bayer has come up with their own derivative of glucose, GLUT1 inhibitor. Okay. Very recently they came up with B876. Fortunately, it's commercially available. You can purchase 100 milligrams for $1,000. So we bought this B876. It's a very potent and selective GLUT1 inhibitor. And our hypothesis said that, okay, our MPC, MCT inhibitors are doing like 50 to 80% of the tumor growth, depending upon what tumor you're talking about. And Bayer also published that GLUT1 selective inhibitor, it's about 50 to 70%. It's not that their compound is doing 100% job. Okay. We thought that how about combining these two metabolic inhibitors, okay, so that we can target the metabolic plasticity that exists in this tumor microenvironment, so that we can have the combination therapy should be far better. Okay. So we can eliminate the metabolic plasticity and we can eradicate the completely tumor. Right now, the experiments are going on. Before the pandemic, we had to shut down the labs for 4 months. Okay. Our university and all the labs and everything was shut down. And still we are most of the teaching. I mean, recently we are allowed back into the labs with wearing masks and other things, but still we are doing the teaching via online only, using Zoom and other procedures. Okay. So this is something we are hoping that using these two combinations, not only just the tumor growth inhibition, but we can totally eradicate. Okay. And now that these MPCs are there, we are doing several diseases. One of the things I will not talk about in next 3-4 minutes, I'll finish it. Okay, is that non-alcoholic steate, same compounds, same coumarins, humble coumarins. We are using it for non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. It's one of the major problems. It's reaching to pandemic levels because 20 to 30% of the United States population, not only United States, in fact, a lot of people have all over the world have these fatty livers. Fatty livers are untreated, and they can cause liver fibrosis, and eventually it can lead to liver cirrhosis also, okay, and liver failure. So it's a serious problem. So right now there are no drugs that are currently approved for treating this liver disease. So we are hoping that I have a good hypothesis on this one. I'll skip these slides. So I can see that we simply changed our strategy. We entered into the biology area. Okay. And by coming out of our comfort zone, taking 10 years back or even 8 years back, if somebody told me that, would you want to make these compounds? I would say absolutely no. Because why would you need these compounds? It's only one-step compound. There is no chiral center. And these compounds might be useless compounds or something like that, I would say. But that was my ignorance at that time. Okay. But as you can see that, so this mostly I talked about my student's thesis, Shirisha's thesis. But I have a lot more stories like it. In fact, we have 12 different projects of different types of. All that we do is that very simple reactions we take up, okay? And very rapidly we generate drug candidates and then explore their therapeutic. Just these simple coumarins. So right now, we are not only doing for different types of cancers, not just one cancer. We are tackling 5-6 different cancers. We are also using this non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, which is a liver disease, preventing the liver cirrhosis, and then chronic graft versus host disease.
మళ్ళా
This also
వస్తున్నారా ఏంది మరి మన స్టేటస్ లా ఇది పెట్టుకున్నది మన ఇల్లే కదరా ఇది ఇగో
yeah. So and then also obesity, it's a
ఇది మన
major
ఇల్లే
problem.
కదా
And then also we are also using it for neuro. All same compounds. I'm not changing anything. Because if you take like any cancer drug, doesn't have to be super toxic. Since these compounds are highly non-toxic compounds, even at 100 milligram per kilogram, they are non-toxic. It means that they can be used for some other conditions also. Okay? So simple ones, we are using it for different types of things. We started, as you can see, that in those days we were making these kind of complex molecules, but using the power of organic synthesis, we are using so different papers. In fact, we have at least 15 to 20 more papers to publish in this using these simple coumarin compounds. So we have a lot more data, and then we are still collecting some more data also. So Shirisha has published almost 22 papers. She did master's as well as PhD with me, okay? And she's doing great as a postdoc also. So hopefully she wants to become a faculty member in future. So this is what is the story that I want to tell you, that especially for students. So anything that you are doing it, take pride in. Remember that I only did these compounds, I only did MSc lab reaction. Teaching lab reactions only we did it. Okay? And these reactions, we can, collaborate with people, learn the new things, and then we can do great things also. You don't have to have all the facilities in the world. We can always come out of, that's what is as a scientist, student, whether you are a student scientist or anybody. So we have to come up with solutions, simple solutions for complex problems. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Prashanthi Garu, for again giving me this opportunity. And thank you all for listening, and sorry for taking a little extra time. And then thank you, Subhash, also for giving up his half-hour time. Otherwise, what will happen is that already I rushed it too much, but I wanted to tell my side of the story of, for the benefit of students, that simple doesn't mean that it's bad. Okay? Simple can be really good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I request Abhilasha.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Just if you don't mind, I want to show 30 seconds, okay? So this is our winter, okay? In winter time, we get usually, we have 8 months of winter. So, and 3 months of summer and 1 month of summer-winter mixture. So usual average temperature is -20, but at times it goes to -40, -50 also. You can see that roads and in the parking lot, cars can get submerged in the snow. It's brutal winters. And you can see that backyards, a lot of snow. Of course, winter times are beautiful, a lot of snow. All the time it snows. And summer times it gets really pretty. You can see that we are at the backdrop of magnificent Lake Superior. This is the Lake Superior is such a big that it looks like Bay of Bengal. And then world's is 10% of fresh water is there in this particular lake. Probably it's 150 times bigger than River Krishna. Okay? It's that much big. And you can see that this is the river, freshwater river. Okay? Lake it is called as in American terms. It looks like an ocean. In the winter time, you saw it's totally tamed. It gets frozen. And you can see that summertime, our university drone picture. It looks good. And in the winter time, it gets all snow covered. Thank you all. Yeah, that's all. I wanted to show our place also.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. You have given a very informative knowledge by simple chemical synthesis, which are leading to tremendous therapeutic actions in the treatment of cancer diseases. Your work is excellent, sir, and has carried many studies in identifying the target areas like MLT and understanding in-depth work in preclinical studies in animals, and suppressing of glycolysis stress and mitochondrial stress, discovering of potential drugs, anti-cancer agents like MN D1, D2, D3, and also studies on mitochondrial pyruvate carriers, glucose transport targeting areas, which are showing high potential in treating of the cancer. And not only that, in non-alcoholic fatty liver diseases also. We are very happy, sir, and thanks for sharing your journey of connecting the chemistry to the biology. And also, we are very much impressed with your personal connection to Nalgonda and with beautiful scenes of Minnesota. And thank you so much, sir. Last but not the least, I wish all the dignitaries, guest speakers, and my dear colleagues, happy Teachers' Day. Thank you. Thank you for the session.
Thank you, Abhilasha, for your wonderful words towards the lecture delivered by Professor Meredi, sir. Really, sir, so much happy with your lecture. Really energetic. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving your valuable time during this pandemic. Thank you very much.
My apologies for taking up too much time, and then it looks like I didn't leave any time for questions. Any students, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Yeah. Sorry, I mean, we are going a little bit overboard. So, sorry. Thank you again. Yeah. I'll stop.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now, I welcome today's guest of honor, Professor Junnalagada, sir. And before that, I invite Dr. Kalyani from Department of Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Sciences to introduce today's guest of honor and valuable speaker. Kalyani, ma'am.
Yeah,
please.
good evening. Good evening,
Yes.
everybody. I feel privileged to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Subhash Jonnalagada. Dr. Subhash Jonnalagada is a professor in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry at Rowan University, USA, with a joint appointment in the Department of Molecular and Cellular Biosciences. He obtained his BSc from Pondicherry University, Dr. SRK Government Arts College, and MSc from University of Hyderabad. Later, he completed PhD from Purdue University, USA in synthetic organic chemistry, working in the Nobel laureate H.C. Brown Center for Boraine Research. He then worked as a postdoc in Professor Smith's laboratory at University of Pennsylvania, USA, followed by a second postdoc in Professor Venkatram Mereddi's lab at University of Minnesota. He became an assistant professor in 2008, associate professor in 2013, and a full professor in 2018, all at Rowan University, New Jersey, USA. Professor Jonnalagada is a co-author, inventor of 4 patents, 45 peer-reviewed publications, and more than 80 meeting papers. So far, 70 undergraduates, 14 MS, and 13 postdocs have received training under his mentorship. For the past decade, he has been working with several local pharmaceutical industries such as Natrion, Teligent, and Rose Pharmaceuticals, etc., towards the development of novel small molecules as potential anti-cancer agents, antifungal agents, as well as anti-Alzheimer's agents. His research is funded by New Jersey Health Foundation, Camden Health Research Initiative, and other pharmaceutical industries. Professor Jonnalagada teaches undergraduate courses in organic chemistry, pharmaceutical chemistry, and spectroscopy. In addition, he teaches graduate courses such as advanced pharmaceutical chemistry and organometallic chemistry. He received 2 Hall of Fame teaching awards at Rowan University. Professor Jonnalagada is currently the department head of chemistry and biochemistry at Rowan University. He also served as the graduate coordinator for the past several years at Rowan University. He was chair of the committee that led to the creation of the MS program of the MS Pharmaceutical Sciences program, and is currently heading the committee for the creation of a new PhD program in pharmaceutical chemistry at Rowan University. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the international webinar on Frontiers of Science and Technology. And we are delighted to listen to your lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kalyani. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's audible.
So I'd like to thank the convener, Dr. Prashanthi Madam, for organizing such a nice webinar. I'm also thankful to the honorable guest, Professor Arvind Kumar sir, J.D. Yadav sir, and Shivraj sir. It's a very nice occasion to be participating in this event. So let me share my screen. I also like to thank Professor Venkatrami Reddy for a very nice talk. And it's a very tough act to follow him. So he is an amazing mentor. He's been my role model, and I've known him for the past 20 years now. So August 2000, when I first joined my PhD program at Purdue University, he welcomed me with open arms into the research lab. He trained me, and I've been with him ever since. So in various roles, I was first his student, then his postdoctoral fellow, and then a collaborator. So we've become very lifelong friends, and it's just nice to be associated with him for so long. And whatever I am today, I owe it all to Professor Miradi. So I'll give you a brief overview of our research. So as I've said, I've collaborated with Professor Miradi for a long time. I've been associated with him. So both of us, we felt that if both of us give full-fledged talks, there will be a lot of overlap in between. And so it just didn't feel right for me to just take up equally as much time. So we figured it'll be better for him to give the general overview of all the basic understanding of the projects as well. And then I'll start with like more nitty-gritty details of some specific projects that I was working on. So, and thank you organizers, and thank you, Professor Miradi, for accommodating my request as well. Okay. So as Dr. Kalyani Madam said, my name is Subhash Janalagada. I'm the professor and department head of the chemistry and biochemistry at Rowan University. And the talk today is going to focus majorly on the development of small molecules as potential anti-cancer agents. And so my experience is all listed in detail here. So Dr. Kalyani Madam has already done a very good job of explaining the experience. So I'm not going to bore you with that, but then I do want to say a few things about my educational background, because I'm sure most of the students in the audience are from the rural villages and such. The very similar background to mine. For example, I did my intermediate by PC in Sri Tanguturi Prakasam Pandra Government Junior College, where I did my BM by PC. And then from there, I moved on to, again, it's a nice occasion today as well. My BSc was from Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan Government Arts College, Yanam in India. Today is Dr. Radhakrishnan's birthday, so we celebrate it as Teachers' Day as well. So happy Teachers' Day to everybody. And later on, I went to do my master's in University of Hyderabad and finished it in 2000. And from there, I went to Purdue University. And from that point, I've been in the US for the last 20 years. So again, because just like Dr. Miradi, I also have a tendency of talking too much. And then towards the end, I forget or I don't get the time to thank the people who are responsible for all the work that is going to be presented. So it's my habit to always thank them at the beginning so that it's fresh in everybody's minds. So what you see here is our building. This is the science building in Rowan University, and my office is located right there. This university is a rather new university, I would say. The Rowan University is a public state university which was established. The entity existed since the 1920s, but then this became Rowan University after the scientist engineer Henry Rowan. He donated $100 million to our university. At that point, it was a state college. And to that state college, Dr. Rowan, he donated $100 million. So obviously the state college took up his name. So the university is now called Rowan University in honor of him. He passed away just a few years ago. So even now, his effect is really profound at our university, and we owe a lot to his charitable donations and philanthropic endeavors. So currently my research group consists of a scientist, Dr. Sujal, he's from Bangladesh. And then I have several master students. Some of them are about to graduate soon. Some of them are new students as well. and I have a bunch of undergraduate students also working in my lab. And most of the work that I'm going to present today was performed by these BS and MS level students. As Dr. Kalyani mentioned, we do not have a PhD program yet. And then when I was applying for the jobs, I had the opportunity to go work in an established university where there was already a graduate program, fully developed graduate program intact. But then I felt, again, talking to Dr. Miredi, we felt that it will be better for me to go to a young institution where there is a lot of scope for growth and then for growing. Because of Rowan's money fund, the university, Rowan University, was significantly growing. So back when I joined in 2008, Rowan University had about 8,000 students, and we only had a BS program, no master's or PhD programs on campus. So from that point, I've been involved in the development of a lot of curriculum. New courses were created, new master's program was created. So I was instrumental in the creation of a master's in pharmaceutical sciences. So all these students that I mentioned here are in that master's of pharmaceutical sciences program that I helped create. So I was the chair of the committee that led to its creation. And now I'm working on the creation of a PhD program at our university as well. So the advantage of being in a university like this, where it is growing. So now we have about 19,000 students on our campus. We started 2 medical schools. So we have an MD program, we have a DO program, and then we are now about to we already have an engineering program, a PhD in engineering program. Which was launched a few years ago. Now we are working on the creation of a PhD program. So the advantage of working in a place like this is that you get to develop your own vision as the curriculum rather than going into an established curriculum where everything is already set in stone and it's difficult to make changes to that type of setting. I felt it will be better for me to join a smaller university which is up and coming. That way I'll be able to contribute a lot more meaningfully to the program. So, and over the past few years, these are some of the students who have worked in my lab and their current whereabouts. So without their efforts, I would not be where I am. So a lot of these students are, some of these are like about 10-year-old pictures. So this student here, Chris, he's a doctor now. Joe is a high school science teacher. Mike, he just finished his PhD. Hannah, she's a dentist now. Brian is a dentist. These are PhD students. And these have all gone on to do some really wonderful things after graduating from my group. And so I'm really, really thankful to their extraordinary efforts which made this whole talk possible. Okay. So coming to the science itself, based on my background, I'm a synthetic organic chemist with some expertise in medicinal chemistry and making small molecules and developing them as anti-cancer agents. So drug design can happen in like multiple different ways. I'm going to talk on 2 different aspects using which we have been trying to develop new drugs. One is based on library synthesis. We make like essentially hundreds of molecules and test with some hypothesis in mind, and then we test their biological activity and see which one works and which doesn't work, and what type of structural modifications are able to impart the biological activity or are able to enhance the biological activity of the molecules. That's one approach. So we make like a series of molecules and test their biological activity. That's one approach. And the second approach that we take is essentially being inspired by nature. So we take what nature has already made and then we try to isolate it from the natural sources and then enhance their biological activity by chemical manipulation. So either way, chemical manipulation is common in both aspects. In one series, we just make a bunch of molecules, a bunch of new molecules that have never been made before and test their biological activity. That would be rational drug design. In a multi-step synthesis, and the other one would be taking what nature has made and trying to extract it, trying to enhance their activity. So these are the 2 main projects that I'll talk about. Now, both of them do require some chemistry to happen, and the common feature, common theme in my research group has been that those reactions. So for example, reactions such as these shown on this slide, Bailey-Silman reaction, Passerini reaction, Yugi reaction, and so on. These are some of the bread and butter reactions in my group, and everyone essentially getting trained in my research group knows how to do these reactions. And as you can see, these reactions, I picked them for a particular reason. These are very robust and these are very sturdy reactions that can withstand a lot of changes on these functional groups here. So we are able to get a series of these molecules without any problem, regardless of what these R1, R2, R3, R4 groups are. So you can, so long as you have, let's say, if you look at a Pasolini reaction, so long as you have an aldehyde, a carboxylic acid, and isonitrile, we will be making these alpha acetoxyamides, regardless of what is present on these other groups, R1, R2, and R3. So that gives us a lot of value that is of immense significance for us, because now if I want to make a series, a library of molecules, if I want to make, let's say, hundreds of molecules, it's rather easy to do so. For example, if I take 10 different aldehydes, 10 different acids, and 10 different isonitriles, by simple permutations and combinations, I can make easily 1,000 molecules, right? A1, B1, C1, A1, B1, C2, like that. If I just keep doing the manipulations, the combinations, I'll be easily able to make 1,000 different molecules just from 30 starting materials. So those type of reactions are rather handy in medicinal chemistry, because we are able to generate a large library of molecules with much less effort and with much less resources as well. So that has been the central theme of all of my research. We make more complicated molecules from simpler starting materials, and we either start from a natural product or we make de novo new molecule altogether. Yeah. So in the first portion of my talk, I'll not go into specific chemistry details of all of these, because all of this work, most of this work is already published. So you should be able to read up on all these things later on. So all I'll do is just cover the overview, the basic concepts of these projects, and then I'll let you look up additional information, because it's all published outside. Okay. So in terms of the library synthesis, again, being organoboron chemist myself, having worked at Purdue University in Professor Mirade's lab in the Herbert C. Brown Center for Boron Research. So I had the expertise in boron chemistry, so I did not want to leave that aside. So that has always been a cornerstone of my research. So boron chemistry, I just don't ignore it. I don't forget it ever. So boronic acids, for example, this molecule here is called boronic acid, which looks very similar to a carboxylic acid. So if you're assuming these R groups are the same, the boronic acid and carboxylic acid have very similar structure and electronic properties. They are stereoelectronically very similar. And so the difference between a carboxylic acid and boronic acid is the fact that boron is a 6 electron species as opposed to an 8 electron carboxylic acid carbon here. So that makes it significantly electrophilic. So a boronic acid is able to bind to enzymes essentially irreversibly, because now when you make this complex here, it's called an 8 complex, borate complex. So this is an 8 electron species. So the enzymes are bound irreversibly to the boronic acids, making these stable molecules. Whereas if the same enzyme were to interact with a carboxylic acid, it would be making this tetrahedral carbonyl addition intermediate, which is rather unstable. So the enzyme can bind to carboxylic acid, but it can dissociate also rather well. So this is going to be more of a reversible process, whereas this leads to an irreversible process. So now if, because boronic acid looks similar to a carboxylic acid, if I were to replace a carboxylic acid with boronic acid, I'd be able to irreversibly bind an enzyme to this boronic acid, because the enzyme might be tricked into thinking that this is a carboxylic acid because it looks like a carboxylic acid. It feels like a carboxylic acid, but it is different. So the enzyme gets bound to this boronic acid, and then this enzyme can no longer function. So if this enzyme is the culprit causing some diseases, for example, if this is in a cancer cell, and that cell, if you can prevent that cell from growing because of the binding, irreversible binding to a boronic acid, you would be killing that cell. And if that is a cancer cell, that's the therapeutic benefit. So that has been the hypothesis mechanism of action for several drugs that are already out in the market. So for example, Velcade bortezomib is one of the first molecules approved for the treatment of multiple myeloma, which is a deadly form of blood cancer. So wherein an enzyme called proteasome is the culprit for causing that type of cancer. And then these boronic acid molecules here bind to the proteasome and cause them to cause their inhibition, thereby showing the therapeutic efficacy. So the bottom line, even if you don't get the gist of this whole story, the main thing to note is boronic acids are similar to carboxylic acids, and they can have biological properties because of their six electron nature. So for the past several years, we have been making some cyclic boronic acid molecules, which are shown here. These type of cyclic boronic acid molecules are these are boronic acid hemiesters. These are called benzoperoxoles or benzoxaborose. So we have been making small molecule, small benzoperoxole analogs for a long time. So initially we started with this diisopanocamphyl allyl borane, and then reacted with bromobenzaldehyde to form this alcohol, which then undergoes borylation to form these benzoperoxole units. So this has been a central theme of our research, making a lot of these benzoperoxoles using simple chemistry. So this is allyl. This would be the Pasolini reaction that I was talking about. And as I was saying, Pasolini reaction usually involves an aldehyde, an isonitrile, and a carboxylic acid. And in the previous slide, I showed you how a boronic acid can be a mimic of carboxylic acid. So you're able to use a boronic acid just like a carboxylic acid in a Pasolini reaction. So we were able to publish that a decade ago. So that's another way of making benzoperoxoles. This is a reaction involving an amine, aldehyde, acid, and an isonitrile. This is a UV reaction. We made benzoperoxoles this way as well. And again, all these Pasolini, Bailey-Silman, Barbieri relation, aldol reactions. So all of these pretty simple, straightforward chemistry on a boronic acid type of containing unit leads to the formation of these bunch of benzoperoxoles. So this was all easy chemistry. We were able to make the molecules, but as Dr. Miradi was saying, this is almost 10 years ago. At that point, we were struggling to find suitable collaborations for doing the biological evaluations. And those who were doing them, they were very slow. And so I'm really glad and thankful that Dr. Miradi decided to move into the biology aspect so that I didn't have to myself. So now now that Dr. Miradi is an organic chemist turned biologist, so he understands the pace at which things should be done for it to be effective in organic synthesis. So what I do now is I make my molecules here and send it to Dr. Miradi, and then he tests the compounds for the biological activity in Minnesota. And so that's how we've been surviving. So the bottom line, these molecules have been prepared easily, but then they were not showing as much effect. So we started making more analogs. And then instead of changing on this 5-membered ring here, we now started making changes on the 6-membered entity on benzoperoxole. And by doing so, we suddenly started seeing significant activity on various types of cancers. So as Dr. Miradi mentioned, pancreatic cancer and breast cancer, these are the two main cancers that we have been targeting. And you can see that this molecule here, quinolin, chloroquinolin type of moiety here, shows activity on both pancreatic and breast cancer cells. And then I also wanted to mention the power of organic chemistry. So essentially, when we make a new molecule, because it has never been made before and we don't know what type of properties it can have, if we introduce a molecule of pharmacophore like a boronic acid, for example, you might be able to see different types of activities in different types of disease conditions also. So, you don't have to restrict yourself to cancer. The very similar type of molecules, you're able to test it for different other types of diseases as well. For example, this molecule showed some significant activity against tuberculosis. And we also have some molecules that showed activity against fungus and bacteria as well. So using the same type of molecule, or same type of series of molecules, we're able to find different types of activities as well. But in the focus, in the interest of time, I'll focus this talk mainly towards cancer. Okay, so bottom line, benzoperoxoles, because these are our pet projects, we've been working on them for some time. We have made like hundreds of molecules, hundreds of benzoperoxoles, and tested their biological activities, and we have found some leads, and we are now trying to pursue them further towards the mice studies and such. So that's the bottom line from the benzoperoxole project. So in the next project, I'll talk about pharmacognosy, which is a fancy word of saying natural product chemistry. So pharmacognosy is the branch within pharmacy or within chemistry which deals with the isolation of molecules from plants, animals, marine resources, whatever, and then isolating them, extracting them, purifying them, and then further modifying them using chemical manipulations. So this has been a central theme in my research group as well, along with the library synthesis. And these are some of the papers that have been published in this area. Again, I welcome you to look at these down the line. So I'm not going to bore you with all the exact details of all these projects. So mainly I have 3 different projects running within the pharmacognosy as well. So I apologize for the technical thing. So this one somehow it didn't show up the structure. So we have primarily been working on 3 different natural products for the past few years. One of them is betulinic acid, which is what the next remaining 15 minutes of the talk is going to be on. So betulinic acid is what I'll talk about next. So I'll get back to this. Vithavirin is another molecule which is isolated from a Himalayan plant, ashwagandha. So ashwagandha has this alkaloid type molecule vithavirin, which shows activity against Alzheimer's. So what we did was that we we had a company in India isolate this for us and then send us the crude extract. We then purified vithavirin and then we made an analog of vithavirin with N-methyl serotonin, which is shown in green here. So by combining vithavirin with serotonin, we are able to enhance the the biological activity significantly. And then we tested these as anti-Alzheimer's agents. And then this showed about 50 nanomolar cytotoxicity in preventing the brain damage, nerve damage caused in the brain. And we are now waiting for additional funding to take this to the animal model. So we have some ex vivo studies done on this molecule here. So isolating vithavirin from ashwagandha and then converting this molecule here into a conjugate of N-methyl serotonin, we were able to significantly enhance the biological activity. Whereas this showed about 1 micromolar to about 10 micromolar activity with vithavirin. This molecule here, conjugate with N-methyl serotonin, caused the activity to be increased about 20 to 50 fold. And we're able to take this molecule forward. And the other molecule that we're working on is a molecule called salinomycin. So salinomycin is currently used in the chicken feed as an antibiotic, as it's an anticoccidiostat. So it's used to treat the tapeworm infections in the chicken. So it's essentially added to the chicken feed. And from that, this has been known for like ages now. So this has been known from the 1950s onward. But then in the late 2000s, what they found is that this molecule here showed significant breast cancer stem cell activity. So an antibiotic which shows cancer stem cell activity. So there is now a renewed interest in pursuing this molecule forward. But then the problem is that this molecule is already known for ages, so there's no way you can patent this molecule or convert this into a drug form, because that would literally what we could do is essentially if we were to put in billions of dollars into this molecule and develop this as a drug, people could essentially eat the chicken feed and be treated of that cancer. So I don't think from a commercial angle, from a commercial standpoint, they'd want to develop salinomycin itself as a cancer drug. So what a local pharmaceutical company asked us to do is to see if we are able to get make analogs of salinomycin. So that's where I'm sorry that this molecule didn't show up. So we isolated, we got this salinomycin from the natural sources, and then we converted the salinomycin into a thiazole conjugate here. And by making, again, this was a series of manipulations that we had to do, a series of molecules that we made, and one of the molecules showed significant activity against the breast cancer cells. So that is also an ongoing project, and this project is now funded by the New Jersey Health Foundation. So they liked our idea of this new molecule, and New Jersey Health Foundation essentially they primarily focus on commercial entities, or the ability of the project to be commercialized. That's what their main emphasis on. So I'm really happy to note that this project they liked it, and then this molecule now we're trying to pursue the animal model studies on this molecule here. So now the remaining 10 minutes, I'll focus on this molecule here, betulinic acid. So betulinic acid comes from these trees here. There's white trees that you see here are called birch trees. And these are native to the colder climates like Russia, US, Canada. So these are the type of Alaska. These are the type of places where these trees grow profusely. So even at Rowan in our campus also, we have a farm where we are trying to raise birch trees. Now, the advantage, birch trees are known from ages. In the North American folklore, they used to drink birch tea from the bark, and they also used to brew birch beer because of the medicinal effects, because it had significant activities against arthritis and various other types of conditions. So in the olden days, they used to make concoctions, beer, tea, and so on from the birch beer. And the bark, the reason why it's so white is because of a molecule called betulin. And unlike most natural products, betulin is present abundantly in nature. So if you extract this bark, if you peel, especially if the bark is so thin that you can peel the bark off the tree. So my students, whenever they run out of the material, they just go to the farm, they peel the bark from the trees and then bring it back to the lab. They cut it into pieces with scissors or put it in a blender, and then they get a fine powder which they extract using simple organic solvents to get the betulin molecule. Now this betulin is present about 10 to 15%, or in fact, good qualities have about as high as 20 to 25% by weight betulin in them. So if I take a pound of birch bark, I can easily get 100 grams to 150 grams of betulin from that bark. So most natural products are present in like microscopic quantities. So if you take like tons of material, tons of the natural plant, for example, you might be getting a few milligrams of the molecule, natural product from that source, which can be quite detrimental, which can be quite challenging and difficult to get more amounts of the material. So from those type of projects, betulin is rather significant because we're able to get a lot of molecule, a lot of betulin from the bark. And the other advantage, the bark, if you peel this off, the plant generates more. So you don't even have to kill the plant to get the bark. So you just peel the bark, and then over a few more years, the bark is regenerated essentially. So it's a renewable source of betulin. And that is important for me because we see all the time that the prices of the pharmaceutical drugs are expensive or getting up all the time. So if you are able to make a molecule from a natural renewable resource, there is a very good chance that the price can be kept down. And on top of that, if you are able to make the chemistry rather simple, if you're able to make the molecule easily, then we're able to get a drug in a very cheap manner, which can be then useful for the people who cannot afford the medications and such. So that has been always the central theme at the back of my mind when I design projects. So most of the projects that you'll see, I always pick the simple targets which I can make readily, so that if it does become a drug, it can be synthesized and prepared in a commercial manner, in a very easy manner. Okay, so betulin, as I was saying, is has been around for, again, millennia now. And this molecule shows some significant protective effects in Alzheimer's, arthritis, and so on. The major problem, though, with this molecule, as you can see here, it's a steroid-like molecule. It's not a steroid, it's steroid-like. It's a pentacyclic triterpene. There are about 30 carbons in there and 1 or 2 oxygen molecules. So this molecule, the oxygen atoms, as you can tell, this molecule would be highly lipophilic. So this molecule is not soluble in water at all. And the human body is like 90% made up of water. So this molecule, if you were to eat it as a pill, I don't think it will dissolve in the body. So it will just be excreted out. So that's no good. So our goal in this project was to isolate this molecule and then increase its hydrophilicity. So increase the polarity of this molecule so that it can become a better drug. And on top of that, this molecule showed some cancer activity against skin cancer and few other cancers, but the potency was rather low. As in, I had to take a large amount of this drug for it to show some cancer activity. So that was also not good. So there were two main goals from this project, two main aims from this project. One would be to increase the polarity of this molecule so that it can be more soluble. That's one. And the second one was to increase the potency of this molecule as well. So in terms of the potency, what we can do is we can make we can see what the known drugs are. We can take the pieces of the known drugs which are responsible for their biological activity and connect them to this betulin entity. So that way, betulin would be a carrier essentially of that pharmacophore into the cancer cell. So that was the basic ideology. So with that intent, we started this project about 8-9 years ago. And then at that point, we made a bunch of these molecules that are shown here. So from betulin, we made these amines, these amides, and then these chalcones essentially. All these molecules showed better activity than the parent natural product, but they were not as significantly higher yet because the polarity was increasing definitely. So from an alcohol to amine, you're increasing the polarity. And it was showing some activity, but it was not as enhanced. So you can see the activity is shown here. Parent natural product was about 100 micromolar. From that point, we were able to reduce it to 10 micromolar, about 20 micromolar by converting them into these chalcones or amines and such. But then it was not enough. So it's getting better, but it's not at the drug range yet. So for it to be a drug molecule, it would have to be at least 50 to 500 nanomolar. That would be like the ideal concentration at which it would be better as a drug. So in that sense, what we then hypothesized is that, again, in the interest of time, I will not bore you with all the technical details of this. I'll just give you a brief retrosynthetic hypothesis and then move on. So this molecule here, so the shown in green is betulin. And betulin, as I was saying, has cancer activity. It also shows selectivity towards cancer cells as well. So it's a twofold advantage now. So if you have this template here, not only does it cause some cancer cytotoxicity, it is also able to selectively be delivered into the cancer cells. So then that can be advantageous as well, because that will be helpful in targeted drug delivery of the compounds. So we wanted to retain that betulin template intact. And then we wanted to add other moieties to it so that we can enhance the cytotoxicity as well as the polarity. So now if you look at this molecule in blue here, this template in blue here, that's a triazole unit. And triazoles are known pharmacophores. There are several drugs in the market which have a triazole unit in them. So, and then we use that as a linker between this template shown in yellow, which I'm calling it a BH template. BH stands for Bailey-Silman. So, which again, if you go back to the initial slides, you know that Bailey-Silman is one of the main reactions that we do in our lab. So we wanted to use that Bailey-Silman template and connect it to betulin via a linker, a triazole linker, and enhance activity. So that is the basic hypothesis behind this project. And again, I'll not bore you with too many details. I'll just skip to the final slides. So you'll see we can make this triazole by a reaction known as click reaction. So we take an alkyne and an azide and then couple them together to make this triazole. So then we could put the azide on the Bailey-Silman template and the alkyne on the betulin template and connect them to make the triazole. Or we could swap them as well. So instead of the alkyne on the betulin, we can put an azide on the betulin. Instead of azide on Bailey-Silman, we can put an alkyne on Bailey-Silman. So that way we were able to swap the two linkers, and we were able to make a series of these molecules. And what's the idea? So we wanted to see the structure activity relationship. We wanted to see how does the structure, the small manipulations like this affect the structure of the molecule, or the biological effect of the molecule. And we are happy to note that when compared to this series of molecules showed significant activity against breast cancer and the pancreatic cancer. So as I said, I'll not bore you with all the details. So these are the synthetic conditions by which we were able to make the azides and the alkynes, and then we coupled them. So this is all published. You can all look up in the paper. So I don't want to bore you with all these details here. So this is a summary of all the reactions. So we prepared the azides and the alkynes from Bailey-Silman here. So you start with an aldehyde and an ester. Using DAPCO, you make this allylic alcohol, which then reacts with a bunch of amines to make the amine moieties here. And the intent of adding these amines was to increase the polarity. And then this alpha beta unsaturated ester unit is a potent electrophile. It's a good Michael acceptor, which is able to do Michael additions inside the biological systems as well. So this is essentially a pharmacophore, which increases the biological activity of the molecules. So with this one target, we are achieving both goals essentially. We were introducing a pharmacophore to increase the potency. We were introducing the amine groups to increase the polarity. So both goals of our project are being achieved by this one simple reaction. And so now we have these alkynes and azides starting from Bailey-Silman and then coupled them with betulinic acid. And then we were able to make the molecules. And these are the biological activities of the molecules. So once we did this, we made these series of first generation molecules, which were showing like about 20 to 30 different fold better activity. From there, we then changed the structures a little bit further. So instead of having amides, we wanted to make esters and also the quaternary ammonium salts that we wanted to increase the potency and solubility even further. And these studies we are now waiting on the biological evaluation, and that will direct us further. So that will lead us to the next step of this project here. So to conclude, we have been working on the development of small molecules as therapeutic agents using simple reactions like Bailey-Silman, Pasarini, Yugi, click reaction, and so on. And using these motifs, we have been able to identify some benzylenic acid and benzoperoxide-based small molecules as potential anti-cancer agents. And right now, the efforts are still underway for enhancing the biological activities of these small molecules so that we can then take up their development as anti-cancer agents. And so with that, I'll conclude. And so finally, I'd like to acknowledge the sponsors who led to all this work. So first of all, as I said, the research group, without them, I'm nothing. So their efforts are tremendous and invaluable. So I'll thank them with the bottom of my heart. And then the sponsors for this project have been New Jersey Health Foundation, the MRI grants from National Science Foundation, Avante Pharma, Channel Therapeutics, Teligent. So Channel has been helping us with the salinomycin project. Avante helped us with the Witafrin project and so on. And these are some of my collaborators. Professor Manoj Pandey, he's in a medical school here. He helps us with anti-cancer studies. Professor Reddy, he's my long-term mentor and collaborator. He's been helping us as well. Dr. Kriti Arora, she was responsible for the tuberculosis studies. And then Dr. Bela and Sanghanli, these are also helping us with these studies. And I also love to thank the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry and Molecular and Cell Biosciences at the Brown University. And also thank the audience. And sorry, I rushed through the things because I didn't want to take too much time and I wanted to still end on time. I think looks like I finished on time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your very extensive lecture and lot of information and lot of work you did on development of novel molecules with cytotoxicity screening. Really wonderful, sir, by connecting chemistry and the biology. So already last time yes sir, I heard the lecture delivered by sir. At the time sir mentioned, both of us, Meredith and yourself, you are doing excellent work by combining the chemistry and biology. So at the time I asked one question to sir also, sir, and the same I want to repeat. With these molecules and the biology, so is there any possibility with the nano?
Yes, definitely. In fact, we are working with some collaborators in India also in converting some of these compounds to nanomaterials. Yes, so both betulin and salinomycin we are making. In the case of salinomycin, we are encapsulating salinomycin in other nanopolymers.
Okay,
in the case of betulinic acid, we are trying to make some of these analogs themselves into the nanomaterials. So that is definitely an exciting thing. But then the reason I'm not at this stage involved in that one is because I want to first identify the proper drug candidate. Right now we're at the doorstep, but we have not reached the best molecule yet. So once we identify the best molecule to move forward, that's when we can look at the other avenues like the nanomaterials to increase the potency.
Thank you very much, sir. Once again, my sincere thanks on behalf of Department of Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Sciences, Mahatma Gandhi University, for your valuable talks, sir, and your great concern during this pandemic. And we would like to invite you for many more sessions which are to be conducted in near future, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, a small announcement to all the participants. Thank you very much for all the participants with your patience. And again, we will meet by tomorrow's session. And with this, tomorrow will be morning session from 10:30 to 1 and next to 4:30 to 6:30, followed by the valedictory session. So I request all of you to participate and to make the event grand success. Thank you all. So now I want to end the meeting and see you tomorrow.